At Lowe's, before the holidays is the perfect time for upgrades and upkeep. During Black Friday, get up to 50% off select major appliances and buy more to save more with up to an additional 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. Plus, grab select DeWalt 20-volt max drill or impact driver kits for just $99. Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Before we dive into the episode, quick reminder, the Chase Tracker app is now available exclusively for Chase Club members. It's the easiest way to track your 5 factors of health and stay consistent with what matters. Join us at chasingexcellence.email. All right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and every week. Last week, we published an essay called Your Ceiling Becomes Their Starting Point, a guide to building healthy family habits. If you haven't read it yet, I would love for you to go check it out at chasingexcellence.email. We'll also put the link in the show notes. The essay explores something that Ben and I have talked about on and off for years, how the same principles that make you strong in the gym make your family strong at home, how modeling beats managing, how your daily habits become your kids' baseline for what normal adult behavior looks like. And the essay, of course, didn't come out of nowhere. It came from a synthesis of all of these conversations that Ben and I have had over the years on this show about parenting, health, and how to raise kids who can handle life's challenges with resilience. So today, I wanted to bring all of those conversations back together in one place. So I've pulled 6 episodes spanning 2024 and 2025. These are all conversations about the 5 factors applied to family life, about training and youth athletics, about adversity and screens and environmental designs. It's a bit of a supercut. So if you're a parent trying to figure out how to stay healthy while raising healthy kids, this one is for you. And if you know other parents who might benefit from this conversation, please share it with them. We'd really appreciate it. And we'd love to bring more people just like you into the Chasing Excellence universe. So we're going to start with a bit of foundation setting. We've got a talk that Ben and Heather is Ben's wife, together at CompTrain New England. A few years ago, they gave a talk about how to apply the 5 factors of health, how to eat, train, sleep, think, and connect to their family. They talk about how they do it. They give advice. They answer some questions from members of the gym there. You're going to hear me a little bit in this episode just bringing up the crowd questions because we didn't have a mic on those folks. So you'll hear me a little bit, and then I'll be back after this conversation, this talk, and we'll just keep on rolling through. All right, let's go.
We are hosting this event on the 5 factors, which we'll talk to you guys about what that means because some of you may have never heard of them before. We'll talk to you about the 5 factors, how it applies, how we talk about it to the kids because they have their own version of it, which is very similar, and how to get them on board with what we talk about here. This whole thing started a few months ago when Sammy wrote to me, and she's like, in her beautiful Sammy way, like, freaking out that she's killing Charlie, her daughter, because she won't eat the things that she wants her to eat and she's not exercising. And I'm like, you got to chill. Let's talk. Let's go for a walk. And then I got sick and then school vacation and just never happened. And so people write to me a lot and ask me a lot of questions, and you guys talk about it in your classes. And we thought it'd be cool to have you guys come together so we can share how we do it with our family and how you guys may find that helpful. To just as an overarching thing, our background, our family is a blended family. We have 2 older kids with my ex-husband. Maya is 23. She's in the workforce now. So sharing like our house and her dad's house. So we get her half the time. And then we have a 20-year-old who's a sophomore at UMass. And you guys may not know him if you go here, but some of you may know Maya because she comes here a lot. And then most of you know Bodhi is 11, he's in middle school, and Harley Love is 9 and she's in elementary school. So we literally have like 4 kids in 4 different places in the schooling system and in real world and everything. And that's not to say that we have figured it out necessarily. We just have gone through a lot of phases and have seen how things can come out in the end and how they continue to evolve even when they're older. And we have hope that, the things that our younger children are doing now will not end up with them in prison. So, so that's that. And then Ben's going to kick it off just so you guys know how it's going to work out. Ben's going to talk to you guys about the 5 factors, and he'll give you some like background on that. And then I will talk to you about how I have like a couple things for each of the 5 factors for you to maybe take home and try to implement in your own families. And then we'll do a Q&A, and you guys can fire at us with all of your questions. Okay? Any questions to start? Great. Ben's going to take it.
Cool. Okay, so a little backdrop on what the 5 factors are and why they're the things that we want to focus on. And it's really what we're doing is simplicity is really powerful. We just have to understand that principle is there's a lot of power in simplicity, and complexity is the enemy of execution. So anytime you make something more complex than it necessarily needs to be, you're going to lower the effectiveness. Anytime you make something more simple, you're going to raise the potential power of that thing. So what the 5 factors are simply a framework for us to be able to focus on the principles, the driving factors that influence our health. And that's a big concept to understand, because what ends up happening if you start listening to, I'm going to call it the noise, you get confused because there's so much out there in terms of what is it that we should be paying attention to. Is it about red light therapy? Is it about saunas? Is it about intermittent fasting? What the heck is keto? And if I eat strawberries that aren't grown with the same nutrient-dense soil that our grandparents had, should I not be eating strawberries? And it gets really loud, confusing, and basically it takes away your power to act. So your power to act comes down to 5 fundamental behaviors. And I use the term behavior on purpose because there are other things that influence your health that we should just put on the table, but you don't have control over them. And because you don't have control over them, it doesn't make a lot of sense to worry about them. The biggest one is genetics. Genetics are a thing. It's like you inherit certain things, that's a real thing. But you don't have as much control over that as we think. I'm going to flip the cards onto the other side. You actually do have more control over your genetics than you think. There's a thing called your epigenome, epigenetics. That's maybe if you guys are in the space, you guys have heard that a little bit. Epigenetics is basically you've been dealt a deck of cards from your parents, your grandparents, and so on that are inside of you. But your behaviors dictate what light switch, basically they've given you a fuse box. But your behaviors determine which of those fuse boxes are turning on and off. Those behaviors that determine what of your genetics manifest are how you train or move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you think, and how you connect. And connect has a few different factors. It's how you connect with yourself. Do you understand your purpose, your passion, your why, how you connect with other people, and you get out and experience nature. Those are the 5 big factors. And as you delve more and more into the research of health and longevity, there's some crazy, weird, bonker things going on. Like this is, if our mission is to kick ass into our 90s. That's what we're trying to do, amongst other things. Build a family of humble, hungry, happy people. But what we really want to do is have a bunch of people that are like kicking it in their 90s, playing 36 holes of golf a day and still skiing and playing soccer in the backyard with the grandkids. Like that's what I really do envision. In order to do that, well, let me say, there's a much brighter future on the horizon, which is, if you listen to people like David Sinclair, who's the foremost expert on longevity, there's a real likelihood that our generation lives to 120. That's a real thing. And there's a real chance that our kids, and certainly our kids' kids, live to 150, where 100 will be the new 60. So people at age 100 are gonna start acting like they're at 60. So there's a whole bunch of precision medicine and supplementations and surgeries and a lot of different sciences that you can pull levers on to help you with that. None of that is really available yet. This is what there's books and books and books upon this. But when you peel it all back at the end, usually at the last chapter of these books, they go, you know what, we're not quite there yet. So what you should do is move a lot, train, make sure you take care of what you're eating, eat, sleep, make sure you have a positive mindset, and make sure you establish really good relationships. So they write these books, 200, 300 pages, and the first 180 pages are about the science that's coming, and they go, and by the way, the thing to focus on right now is this: eat, sleep, train, think, and connect. So we've created a recipe, we've created a prescription to really simplify that, because each one of those things has a few dozen things that we could be paying attention to. But it comes down to first principles. Remember, simplify, simplify, simplify. So what are those first principles? What is the prescription? It is train, and this is for us, because I'm gonna talk about us for a second before we get to the kids. Punchline to this whole thing, but by the way, guys, I'm just gonna give it to you now. If you wanna influence your kids, you guys already know the answer to this, because if you want to influence your kids, what's the best way to do that? Model it yourself. Like, that's the whole deal. We can talk about all the other things, the strategies about like what to do with screen time and how to deal with them wanting sweets. And we can deal with are we overbooking our kids with schedule? We can talk about all those things, but those are gonna be down here. You modeling yourself is up here. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loudly. Kids will always do a great job of not listening, but they can't not watch. They're gonna see it and they're gonna model it. It's not even human nature, it's everywhere in the animal kingdom. This is how offspring learn, is they watch their parents do it. How does a tiger learn to stalk and hunt? It just watches. That's how it happens. So this is the punchline. So we have to be able to take care of ourselves first. So we have to understand this part first. The first principles are train 5 or 6 days a week. Eat real food. Sleep 8 hours. Be curious, not judgmental, and surround yourselves with people that want to see you win. Now the little ... and that last one that's not just cheerlead, like you're the best, oh my gosh, it's not that. They want to see you win. People that coach you, challenge you, call you on your crap, but no gossip, no toxicity, no drama, just good vibes and growth. So if we go through each of those principles, there's a lot that supports each of those things, but understanding those at a really, really baseline, fundamental, but like owning those things, owning those 5, nothing else that we do for our kids is gonna move the needle as much as modeling those 5. Saying it again, because if you guys walk out of here with one thing, it's train 5 or 6 days a week. We can talk about all of the subcategories of how we define training. Train 5 or 6 days a week. Eat real food. We can talk about the hierarchy of clean, semi-processed, processed, and ultra-processed foods. Sleep 8 hours. We can talk about the routines and the quality and the consistency of what it matters to be able to do the sleep 8 hours. Be curious, not judgmental. We can talk about, again, the hierarchy of mindset, starting with a victim mindset, a pessimist, an optimist, a realist, and a competitive mindset. When you hear competitive, don't fall into the trap of what society deems as competitors. That's not it. They're missing it. What we see as sore losers, we label as competitive. That's not what competitive is. Let me sit on that one for a second, because the other ones are fairly obvious. Train 5 or 6 days a week, just show up here. Eat real food. Eat fruits, vegetables, clean proteins. Don't eat stuff that comes in a package or a bag or long shelf life. No added sugars, no crappy oils, no refined flour. Sleep 8 hours. Don't sleep 5 or 6. By the way, I'll share just one anecdote with that one. I share with my class a little bit because people gloss over that one fairly quickly. Daylight savings just happened. The Monday after daylight savings, when we lose an hour, we just had it, the Monday we just experienced, heart attacks in countries that follow daylight savings, heart attacks on the following Monday go up by 24% on that singular day. In the fall, when we gain an hour of sleep, heart attacks go down by 21% the following Monday. Sleep matters. That 1 hour difference, sleep matters. The way we think matters hugely. Most of the stress in our lives is not real. It's manufactured. And I'm not saying that's anyone's fault. It's built into your DNA for survival mechanisms based on we're tribal beings. So when we hear that the tribe is talking behind our backs, gossip, someone says something bad on social media, you hear that your kid is being bullied, your boss says we got to talk on Monday, any of those things that where am I in the social hierarchy, that is based on the tribe doesn't like me, they're going to kick me out of the tribe. If that happens, way back then, that's a life or death situation. If you don't have the tribe to protect you, you go out into the wilderness, you get exposed, and you die. That's not modern day society. So when the boss says, we need to talk first thing Monday morning, we feel like that's a life or death situation. When your kid comes home saying, I was bullied on the bus, we feel like that's a life or death situation. The stress that we have is not real. If we understand how to frame it through these different mindsets, it changes the ballgame. The victim mindset goes, everything out is somebody else's, is happening because of something else somewhere else. It's because of the politics. It's about the economy. It's about the other people. It's about the competitors. We feel like it's nothing, we don't have any control over it. It's all just happening to us. That's the victim. The pessimist goes, this just sucks because this political party's there. It sucks that we're in a pandemic. It sucks that it's running and rowing today. It sucks that ... The optimist goes, the future's brighter than the past. Don't worry about it. It'll work out. And they actually don't take the necessary action to make change because everything's going to work out fine. And it's okay. I will say that most of the world tries to aspire to be an optimist. To us, that's just not hurting. That's just the middle. What we want to do is get above that and be a realist. That's what we can all not everything is sunshine and rainbows. And part of being a human being has challenges. And what we want to do is recognize that challenges are going to be here. And when they show up, we don't get overwhelmed. If we can stay centered, that's how you move from point A to point B the best. It's so much nicer just to walk down the hallway than it is to smash in one wall, smash on into the other wall. That's being knocked off centered. And us not being able to deal with challenges is what knocks us off center. The realist has the opportunity to do that. The competitor is not little Johnny after the Little League game that loses and throws a tantrum. That is not the competitive mindset. That is not a competitor. That is a sore loser. The competitor is the one that wants to be challenged. When they go up against a team that's an easy win, they go, that's not what I want. I don't want the wins, I want the growth. And the growth happens when I'm challenged. They want a worthy opponent because the worthy opponent brings out the best in themselves. If we could all, ourselves, run households with that realist or competitive mindset, so that when your kids come home with challenges, we go, yeah, this is part of being a parent. This is the deal, that I know I'm gonna have to deal with these situations, or even better, when your kids come home and there's a challenge, you go, yes, this is my chance to work on me being a parent. This has the chance to work on my character. This has me chance to work on building a better family. We seek those moments out. So I think a great example of this, and we're gonna get to the kid part in a second, is you get on a flight. And let's say we're flying to LA, so it's a 6-hour flight. And you're all excited to either take a nap or bring out your laptop and do some work or read a book. And you're going by yourself and there's 2 empty seats next to you. And they're about to shut the doors, and then the last person that gets on is a young mom with an infant. And that they sit down right next to you. And right when they sit down, the infant starts wailing and screaming. What's going through your mind? So much what? Empathy. So that's awesome. So empathy means that you're basically either an optimist or a realist. That's basically what it means. If it goes, and if it goes, this is what happens. Of course this baby sits next to me. Like, of course, like, damn it, like, all pessimist victim, whatever it is. Like, we're trying to I wanted to do work. You have no control over that whatsoever. So when something like that happens, it's okay, the baby's gonna stop crying when we take off. Like, that's the optimist. The baby, people have been there. The baby doesn't stop crying when you take off. So, or is it babies I fly and baby, like there's a chance that a baby's gonna sit next to me and there's a chance that baby's gonna cry, and that's a realist. If it's something like, ooh, this is a chance for me to work on my patience. This is a chance for me to work on my centeredness. This is a chance for me we're getting into the competitive thing.
Chance for me to hold a baby.
Yeah, we're getting there. Or empathy, right? Like, I feel so bad for if you feel bad, you know how bad the mom feels. Now, what we start to realize is that these opportunities are everywhere. When you get in your car, you're excited to listen to a podcast and your phone's not connecting, right? What goes through your mind? Like, of course my phone doesn't work, right? Or is it, this sucks, I really want to listen to this? Or is it, it's okay, this is going to give me my phone will start working magic, like what? Just start being aware of those things. The thinking one, I want to spend a little bit of time on that, because I actually believe if we're going to model something, that's the one we need to model. And the next one is equally as important, which is the relationship thing. I think the best thing that we can do as parents leading kids is, are you your spouse's biggest fan? So don't look for it the other way. The saying is, surround yourselves with people that want to see you win. It's not try to seek out those people. It's to be that person for the other person that you are leading. You're the leadership team. If you want your organization to model some behaviors, the leadership team needs to represent that. So if we can be the biggest fan and want nothing more than our spouse to succeed, that's the model. And when they're not there, and I know Heather does this for me, I know how much, because I've overheard it, how much she brags about me to our kids. That is such a cool, amazing thing. Like, when you're bragging about your spouse when they're not there. That's the jam. That's the deal. So the 5 factors are how we train, eat, sleep, think, and connect. And the framework leads into the prescription of train 5 or 6 days a week, eat real food, sleep 8 hours, be curious, not judgmental. Optimists, pessimists, and victims are judgmental. This is good, this is bad. Realist just accepts it for what it is. And surround yourselves with people who want to see you win. In this situation, be that person. So I'm going to pass it off to Heather, and she'll kind of like frame this in the way that we frame it for the kids, and then give you some opportunities, some examples of the way that we try to do this. And just as a footnote, this isn't the big takeaway. We're just trying to give some concrete examples, knowing that we don't do this even close to perfect, probably not even excellent. We're just being aware. We're just trying to be aware. But we want to have you guys walk away with some tangible things that we're trying to bring to life?
I came up with basically two things for each of the 5 factors. But I also came up with 2 general, like, overarching themes that should be playing in the back of your head. And Ben talked about one of them is leading by example. And I don't need to go into that any deeper, but so that's number 1. Number 2, and you kind of just said it right now, is the idea of just creating awareness. Like, that is really, when I talk to a lot of your kids that come to our classes now, and for those of you who don't know, I run the kids program, so I keep saying that, and some of you don't even know what I'm talking about. But I run the kids program, but one of the things I say to them all the time is, like, it's just about creating awareness. Like, yesterday we talked about eating, and we looked at nutrition labels, and I was like, these are the 3 things that you really need to make sense of. There's a lot of information on there, just look at these 3. But I was like, guys, they were like, well, added sugar is bad. I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be, like you said, like, it doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be, this is good, this is bad. Don't ever eat added sugar. Don't, like, always eat real food. It's like, it's never really like that. And the more that you guys as parents can just take the pressure off yourself, and your kids don't have to eat perfectly all the time, and they don't have to know every single piece of information. The more that you, like we say in here all the time, is like, the more you drip stuff, the more you're just creating awareness. And that at this stage is really what is going to move the needle the most, is just like the fact that they even know that there's nutrition labels on food that they're eating, and that the fact that they know that there's something called added sugar versus sugar. That alone, like, it doesn't even matter what you're eating, because one kid was like, well, I know that we're only supposed to be eating 25 grams of added sugar a day, so sometimes I get mixed up with the math, and I'm like, dude, you need to chill. Like, Marcos, you have to calm down, because you don't have to do the math. Like, just you knowing that you ate something, and that you're eating a piece of bread, and your awareness that they put 6 grams of added sugar into that bread. Like, nobody knows that. Like, our adults in our gym don't even know that they add sugar to bread, you know? So I think as you guys take the pressure off yourself of, like, you know, am I killing my daughter? It's like, no, you're not killing your daughter. And just the fact that your daughter sees you come here, and that you come home and you have conversations with her about stuff that we're talking in classes is 700 light years ahead of, like, where you would have been if you weren't doing that. You know? So having said that, the kids' prescription is very similar to the adults. Same 5 factors. We say eat, train, sleep, think, and connect. And we say eat real food. For them training, they're not working out at the intensity you guys are. They're not on, like, you know, barbell cycling programs and stuff. So we're just like, exercise every day. Like, they should be moving every day. And the way I say it to them is, like, you should never get to the end of a day and feel like, I can't remember if I got off the couch today, or, like, if I didn't take my pajamas off. Like they should be doing something. And that doesn't mean that they have to come to CrossFit New England kids classes, and they don't have to go to 3 hours of gymnastics. It's just, did you jump on a trampoline for a while with some friends? Did you go for a walk with your dog? Did you shoot hoops with your mom? Like, anything, as long as every day they're doing something, that's what we ask of them. Sleeping for them is more like, we average it out because it is very different from an infant to a teenager, but we average it out to say 10. We simplify it, and we just say, you guys should sleep 10 hours a day or a night. And then thinking, we do the be curious, not judgmental. And then our way of saying the connect one is just surround yourself with people that make you a better version of yourself. And that, because if you bring the winning thing in, they're like, well, we need to beat that kid then. It's like, just you need to be a better version of yourself. So that's that. So in terms of the things that you guys can take away, the training piece of it was, like I said, exercise every day. And for us, a lot of times, I mean, we bring our kids and we work out in here off hours. So, like, we do a lot of that stuff, but really our fallback is kind of like to what happened in COVID, when everyone was, like, walking all the time. And we just hung on to it. Like, even last night at 8:30, our older kids, Maya and Joan, are like, at 8:30, they're like, can we go for a walk? Can we just, like, go walk around the block? And it's just a time when, like, we're out in nature, we're connecting with nature, we're connecting with each other, we're talking about stuff that we wouldn't talk about if we were at home, because people are on cell phones, and I'm washing dishes, like, whatever's happening. But you're in this, like, place where you're not having to exercise, you're just, like, moving, and you're sharing stuff with each other. And it doesn't have to always have, like, some monumental, like, educational takeaway factor. It's just like, you're just talking. So that's our train one. Our eat one, we have several eat ones, and we go through cycles of all of these. But the one that is the most constant for us is the idea that if it's not, like, if you control your environment, right? If you make sure that you don't go out and at the grocery store, you're like, oh, I should get chips for next weekend, or I should have ice cream, because sometimes we like to have ice cream after. If it's in the house, it's going to be a fight over, like, well, if I eat my dinner, can I have ice cream? And it's like, no, well, you didn't eat all of your dinner. And it's just like this constant, like, if I do this, can I do this? If you just don't have it, like it doesn't even come up. But we eat, it's not like we don't eat ice cream. Like it's just, if we want to eat ice cream, we all walk down to the Park Street ice cream is where we go to, but like we go somewhere and it's like an outing, it's an adventure and it creates a memory. And so we do it, we just don't do it on a nightly basis where it's like, well, we're just getting through dinner so that we can get to our ice cream. The one thing we talked about the other day is that the idea of mindless eating for adults is kind of like, you don't want to be mindlessly eating, but for kids, sometimes you can take advantage of them like that. Like if they're just like, not vegetable eaters, like one of ours is just not, he doesn't really like eating a lot of vegetables. He's got one thing, it's like cucumbers, that's it. And he's like trying to live off cucumbers. So when he's in the back seat and we're going skiing and it's 4.5 hour drive and he's on an iPad, I just like, don't eat, he doesn't even realize, I'm just like passing back like grape tomatoes and I'm passing back like carrot and he's just like he's just like mindlessly eating. So it doesn't hurt to take advantage of them like that. Like when they have play dates, just leave out a bunch of like cut up fruit and vegetables and just like, that's what they're eating, not like, the temptation as a parent, and I get it, is to like get their favorites. Like you want the kids that they're hosting to be like, oh, I love coming to your house to eat chips and cookies. And it's like, just put out, they don't even need to eat anything really, you know, it's not about that. So that's the eating thing. Sleeping, this is one that we have been in a really good place with sleeping lately for our family, but it's taken probably like 6 or 7 years and different iterations of schedules and like all of it to come to where we are right now. And the way we figured it out is we actually start with what time do we need to leave the house in the morning? And so if Bodhi leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's like, okay, he needs about 45 minutes to get ready. So he needs to wake up then at about 6:15. So then if he's getting up at 6:15, how many hours of sleep does he need? So we take that out of it and he needs to be in bed asleep by 8:15 or closing his eyes at 8:15. If at 8:15 he needs to be in bed lights out, that means that at 7:30 we need to start our bedtime process. And if that needs to start at 7:30, then we need to start eating dinner at 6:30 at the latest, because there's also the cleanup time. So somewhere between 6 and 6:30 dinner has to start. And that's how we figure out our schedule. So you kind of got to like look further ahead down the road and then backtrack from there. And I get it. Like our kids, like he doesn't even get home tonight until like 8:45. So it's not always going to work out that way, but the rest of the family can keep the schedule going and he just kind of slides in at 8:45 and we do our best with that. But that has worked, like leaving extra time and not forgetting like, okay, if we eat dinner at say it's like 7 o'clock, then it's not like magically at 8:15 he's just going to be able to like at 8 o'clock he's going to go upstairs, brush his teeth and go to bed. Like we know that it takes a long time, you know, for all of that stuff to happen. So that's how we do the sleeping thing. And then the other piece of it is just consistency, including the weekends, which is like, oh, seriously, like Friday night, can't I just like hand out pizza and like turn on a movie and go to bed at 10 o'clock? It's like, it doesn't really work like that. Yeah, it does. It's just like, you guys know, you also have like sports stuff the next day and like getting everybody out of the house for that is like creating stress. And it's just like, just stick to your schedule every night. So if we go to bed at 8:15 on Friday nights, we go to bed at 8:15. And he's not good at that either, so I help him with that. But he likes to on Friday, like it just takes two of you guys to like make sure stuff happens on a regular basis. All right, then we kind of talked about a lot of the phases of the, you know, being like a competitor, is that what you called it, right? Mm-hmm. Competitor, and then like realist, optimist, all that. The idea, and this is one thing that I am not great at, is like in the moment, in the heat of the moment when like Bodhi's being he's being a victim, I'm like, you're being a victim. And that's when the whole thing just like goes to hell. So the idea is to have these conversations when everyone's in a good mood, when you're in the car and you're just like, what should we talk about? It's relaxing, it's calm. Not like he says something, he's like, why did you have to do this to me? I'm like, I didn't do it, you're being a victim. Like that's not when things get better. Like when you say to somebody, calm down, like never in the history of calm down did anyone ever calm down, right? So try to take advantage of those times when you're sitting in the car and you're picking them up from school or you're going on these like crazy carpool rides. It's like have conversations about what it means to be a victim mentality. And pull in like things like our favorite was like Bruce Almighty is this old school Jim Carrey movie, but he is like literally textbook victim. Everything is like, oh, why was that puddle right there? Oh, why did it start raining on my birthday? It's like it just like when you see it like that, it's funny, but it's like, hey, let's watch this movie and let's use that for content down the road on like how to talk about what these different phases are when we're not in the heat of it. And then finally, and the other thing about that, I was actually just talking to Maya on the phone. I was like, so what should we talk about with like the thing? And she's like, what about Festivus? And I'm like, oh, Festivus. Do you guys remember Festivus with Seinfeld? So if you are too young, some of you are younger than us, and Festivus was just this holiday that in Seinfeld they did like a couple days before Christmas. It was the airing of your grievances, and so you'd sit down at the table and you put like an aluminum pole in the middle and you'd be like, go. And so everyone just start like firing off like, well, you know, like you wake up so early and you start like banging pots around, and then somebody like you just kind of like. So in a slightly more civilized way, we do this version of Festivus at our house, and I'm like, all right, Festivus is tonight. And everyone like, okay, we're gonna do it. So you just know going into it, like you're gonna go under fire. And, but it's also, it kind of lightens it a little bit because it's just like funny. And you're like, all right, Bodhi, it's your turn. And everyone just knows like, okay, he's gonna pick me. He's gonna say something to me. But it's okay, because like everyone has things with each other, but the more that like we talk about them, the less it turns into this like, why does dad come home late? Like, why does he do that? He's supposed to be home at 6 o'clock. And so we talk about it. And so the more that you talk about stuff, the more you can get into the mindset of like, you're being curious, not judgmental. It's like, dad just doesn't care. He works as late as he wants to. It's like, well, dad, like, why do you come home later on like certain nights and then others? And it's like, well, it's because, you know, this meeting happened or whatever, you know, and so like we talk about things a lot in our family, and that is super helpful. And it makes for less room of like assuming that people are just not caring about each other. And then finally, connect. Connect is the one where we're trying to like work on our relationships as well as connecting with nature and everything. But like the relationship part is like when kids come to our house, like screens go off. Like it is not when the DeLanders are old friends of ours, and when their kids finally come to our house, it's like they all bring their iPads. It's like, nope, we didn't spend 6 months not seeing each other so that we could sit next to each other and play video games. Like go out on the trampoline, go like run around, go play in someone's bedroom. But so play dates are for playing, not for playing on screens. And then our screen thing is just, we're not allowed to use screens during the week unless there's a game or something where we're all sitting in the same room watching like the Celtics or the Patriots or something. But like, well, they would, yeah, if it was a weekday. But in terms of screens, like on watches or iPads or computers, like they're just not allowed to use a screen during the week. And that's never changed. And so it's not this constant like, well, what time can I go on and how long can I be on it? And it's just, they don't even ask anymore because they're not allowed to watch TV or use screens at all.
All right, we've got some questions from the crowd for Heather and Ben. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so our kids are, well, the older kids are on phones, but the younger kids do not have phones. They have Apple Watches. And they're pretty good. Like one of them is really good, and the other one is like on it a little bit more because he's in middle school. And like for example, I don't think I've ever had to take his watch away except yesterday was the first day. We were driving home, and I said like, Bodhi, we're not supposed to be on screens right now. It's a weekday, and he's like, okay. And then like I looked back and he was still on the screen, so I took it away from him then. But we just haven't gotten to that part yet with cell phones yet. But I do remember when Jonah was younger, and he was like not sleeping at night, and we were like, what's going on? And in the doctor's office and his little interview with him, he was like, so what time do you go to sleep? He's like, I think like 2 or 3. And I'm like, what are you doing until 2 or 3 at night? And he's like, I'm just like on my phone. I'm like, oh my God. So we at that point started to take his phone when he went to bed. We would just take his phone and put it in our bedroom, like literally right next to my nightstand, or else it would disappear in the middle of the night.
Next question we've got is one about how to deal with your kid getting upset and angry and being overly competitive in games or sports.
It's not going to be any one conversation. It's not going to be any one tool or tactic. And it's not going to happen if the conversations you're having are during wartime. I think this is what too many, like coaches, parents are coaches. Too many coaches choose to have the conversations in the heat of the battle. And we're not going to get through in the heat of the battle. Think of like a true, like a military leader. Like if you're doing it when everyone's like firing shots and you're being attacked, it's like you lay ground rules during peacetime. And that's when you have it. So that when it happens, again, you just kind of let it happen and diffuse, and then you talk about it again afterwards, because the point is not to change the behavior. This is what to me, we're trying to change behavior. So sore loser, kids after the Little League game, all distraught. After the Uno game, all distraught. And you're like, it's about your effort. It's not about whether you win or you lose. They're not going to hear it because they're so emotional. Emotions, I'll get to I'll try to give a quick little parable. This is one of my faults, is I can't give short answers. There's there's two parts of your brain. There's the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the logical part of the brain. That's where during peacetime, you can talk to the prefrontal cortex, especially with Ari. She's super smart, right? And you can make these rational conversations. Once the amygdala comes in, which is our lizard brain, animalistic brain, it's gone. It overrides everything. The analogy is there's a rider on an elephant. And if the elephant's calm, the rider can steer it. Once the elephant gets spooked, the rider is along for a ride. And the rider is the prefrontal cortex and the elephant is the amygdala. So if you're trying to have these conversations when the elephant is being all emotional, scared, distraught, feels that you can't do it. So we're not trying to change the behavior. You're trying to do, as Heather said, the drip, 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 build awareness, 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 awareness. And over time, we so underestimate, we so overestimate what we can do in a year. You're not going to change Ari in a year, but we so drastically underestimate what we can do in a decade. So the goal is, when Ari is 13, 14, and 15, is she still acting like that? Not changing when she's 3 to 4. And all of a sudden you get this like, I can just do this in the slow method, and I don't need to overreact when she overreacts. So it's a slow drip, not this like, you're doing it again.
Next question we've got is about nutrition, specifically about how to have the conversation about nutrition with your teenage daughter.
I mean, I'll take this because I did have an eating disorder for a long time, probably from when I was like around 15 until I was like 24 or something. It was like a long time. And it, for me, got better. I tried to get actual help for it, but that never worked for me. What actually helped for me was when I started doing CrossFit, honestly, because it started to, we talked about like kind of the way we're talking about now, and I started to understand it as like it's fuel for, like it's not this like emotional thing. It's just like it's calories that your body's using, because I loved exercising, and for me that made a lot of sense. This is why I talk to the kids like this, is like there's no good or bad. We don't need to judge anything. There is a place for everything, but there is also a place for balance. And so that when you can find balance in life, and we say that a lot, then that's where a lot of good stuff can happen. And that also then wraps back to like just creating awareness. Like we don't need to add up, Marcos doesn't need to add up the numbers and how much added sugar he's had by 11 o'clock in the morning. Like he just needs to be aware, like, oh yeah, I had candy at lunch, so maybe I shouldn't have ice cream later on. That's all. It's like, cool, like you can have candy, just don't do it all day, And I weighed and measured food for, oh my God, I don't even know, probably like 7 years, 8 years. Like every blueberry I put in my mouth. Like I would take blueberries out of my dish because it wasn't fitting into my macros. And I don't do that anymore. And I just think about, like I do in my head, I'm like, oh well, yeah, I had tortilla chips at lunch after like lunch. And so I'm just not going to eat, like whatever at night. So it's just, and I look basically the same as I did when I was weighing everything, but I'm much less stressed out now. So I think that, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but hopefully, I don't also think that it's great to avoid conversations about things, so I think that modeling things, like we said, is really good. And you make the meals that you make that you feel good about, and you just do your thing. Eventually, like Maya and Jonah were not great eaters, and now they're in a good place, and it wasn't 10 years of me bashing my head against their plate. It was just like, we just kept doing our thing, and we're still doing our thing. And they love the food that we're eating now, but it takes a while. So it kind of all wraps into the creating awareness and role modeling and not avoiding conversations, because then it becomes taboo. And then when they do want to talk about something, they're like, well, mom doesn't talk about this, so let's just keep this quiet, And so I think that part, you just have to read your kid and like figure out like what they're comfortable talking about and how to talk about stuff with them. But it is tricky. Yeah. Girl stuff is tricky like that, because you don't want to, and even if something had happened with them, even if they did have it's not your fault, like you're like, I don't want to give them an eating, you're not going to give them an eating disorder, but
it's not contagious.
It's not contagious.
I think that the key points, which I just want to double down on, are the drip, 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 creating awareness, modeling. And the other one that Heather started her whole conversation off with the food thing, was environment. So in your house, you have a method, you have a way that you think and execute the food nutrition thing. And that's what you want to have control over. And outside of your house, you don't have that much. And I wouldn't try to I think that's where it gets sketchy, is well, what did you have at Jill's house when you were over at Jill's? That's where it gets to this level of, I'm trying to control the whole thing, where we're going to cook a good, healthy dinner. I'm going to make sure you have a good, healthy breakfast, and I'm going to send you off to school with a good, healthy lunch. And outside of that, I'm going to let go of it a little bit. And when you're at the birthday party, you have the cake. When you're at your friend's house, or you go out to dinner with the friends and you get the chicken nuggets and the French fries, all of that is okay. And I'm not going to question any of it, but it's just have the conversations, but don't
obsess over them.
Don't obsess over them. Another small thing that we've done is we try to tie things back for the kids. So everyone here that's eaten clean for a while, when you don't eat clean, you feel like crap. That's a real thing. So if you eat clean and you come off a nutrition challenge and all of a sudden you go and you have the nachos and the chicken fingers and the fries and the heavy stuff, you feel crappy. When our kids feel crappy after eating crappy food, we tie that to them so they start to associate, I feel good when I do this and I don't feel, because otherwise they don't connect those dots. That is something that we being us, take for granted, but even normal adults don't draw those parallels. I ate crappy last night, I drank a little bit, woke up feeling a little foggy, and that's not a connection most people have. So helping them create those connections can be helpful.
Next question from the group is about how to help your kid deal with and respond to mean kids who are not treating them as they want to be treated. 2
parts to it. The first one is surround yourselves with people that make you better. Those people are not making her better. So instead of trying to go in there and force function something, it's all about creating the right environment. That's not the right environment. So yes, everyone should be able to play on the playground completely, but we can choose, they have more power over who they're surrounding themselves with than not, and saying it's powerful to understand who you should be spending the time with. More importantly is the second piece of this, which is when something like that happens, where we tend to go is be curious, not judgmental, is we don't know what those kids are dealing with. They probably don't have the same loving, supportive family that you are used to, where you're welcoming to everybody. And they probably have some other things going on or not, and we don't know, but it's more about being the curious of instead of they're wrong for not kids are just products of their environments. And if kids are being mean, it's it's not because of you, Ari, it's because they weren't brought up with the same values that we have. So just kind of using everything as an opportunity to double down on what your values are, I think is really valuable.
I think another way that this surfaces in our house a lot is, it's the whole Bodhi will do something to Harley that gets her really upset. And then a day or two later, she'll do the same thing or something similar to him and not realize that she's doing the same thing, and this happens constantly, back and forth all the time. And so it's just a lot of reminding them of remember what it felt like when Bodhi wouldn't let you have a piece of his candy or something. And now, remember how that made you feel? You were so mad. You're oh, he's so selfish. So remember, and now he's asking for a piece of your mango and you're not sharing. So you don't have to. And I say it all the time, you don't have to, it's yours. But just remember how that is probably making him feel, and know that the next time that you want something of his, he may do the same thing again, So it's just a lot of those conversations, again, not in the moment, but in this situation, because they'll forget it, like sometimes like just shortly afterwards, but just connecting again things and reminding them that, you know, and it's like a lot of the stuff, guys, that we deal with our kids, like we're all dealing with as adults also, you know? So then like when I want to go on a girls' vacation and I got like upset that he was like leaving for a long weekend to go skiing with his buddies or something, it's like, well, now it's my turn. I'm like, oh, can I do this? And like, and you're not gonna get mad, right? But it's like, but you got mad at me last time, you know? So it's just like always remembering to give people the grace and the patience that they may have offered you or that you wish they had offered you.
Last question we've got from the group is all about boundaries, helping you and your kids set them, manage them, and maintain them.
I think that like rewarding good examples of that is helpful. Like we had a situation in kids class recently where like these two girls are very good friends. We had like a 3-person team activity and they wouldn't let this one other girl in. And I was like, well, you have a spot. And they're like, well, but we're doing this by ourselves. So I was like, okay. And I wasn't gonna force it because then when you force it, it's like this awkward, like they don't want her there. She's like making her way in a pushy way. So I was like, all right, well, let's just go and we'll find somebody else. And then later on, I did this it's like we do these shout out things. And I was like, I just want to like reward this person for like letting this other girl into her group and last minute. And it was so nice because they weren't friends and everyone was like, that's really nice. And all of a sudden it was like the cool thing to do was to like let other people into your group, you know? And then another similar, but not so similar situation was like, we had a time last week where Bodhi and Harley disappeared upstairs and we didn't hear their voices for like 12 minutes. And I was like, I don't know what's going on up there, but I'm pretty sure a screen is involved and it's a weekday, so they're not supposed to be on it. So we were like, they come downstairs and we're like, all right, so Bodhi, what were you guys doing up there? He's like, oh, nothing. And I'm like, well, what were you doing for the last 15 minutes? He's like, oh, I was just reading. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what were you reading about? He's like, oh, you know, he was on this thing. So finally Harley's standing there and she goes, oh no, we were on Bodhi's computer. And we were like, thank you, Harley. And we almost not rewarded her because they were not supposed to be on him, but we also didn't get her in trouble. And we didn't get that, no one got in trouble, but it was just like, thank you for being honest. And it's this trust that you're building with them that like, you know, like we just don't want you to lie. And you can trust that when we say that, like, we're not going to get you in trouble because you were honest with us. And it's just like, I think the reward, like bringing out, like pointing out the things that people are doing well helps to like pull things in the right direction sometimes, you know? Okay.
To put a bow tie on it?
Yeah.
Leading by example, controlling the environment, setting it up the way that you want it to operate is by far and away the most important thing. We know that there are 5 driving behaviors that create health. It's how you train, eat, sleep, think, and connect. You guys have the first principles for each of those. Train 5 or 6 days a week yourselves, eat real food, control the environment, just don't have it in the house. Honestly, like, to me, that's the biggest thing. We just don't have to have you just don't have to have the conversations if it's not there. Sleep 8 hours. Remember the way Heather did that is, it doesn't just, for kids, it's 10, which is crazy, but that's actually what they need. The research shows that. And that's from lights out to lights on, assuming that they're not, you know, they're falling asleep. And you have to backtrack. And you have to backtrack all the way. You start with what time do they need to leave in the morning, and you backtrack to what time do they need to go to bed, to what time do we have to have dinner, and so on. All the way through the being curious, not judgmental, with the levels of mindset, making sure that we are not modeling victims, pessimists, or even optimists, but realists and competitors. And then finally, the way we connect and the way we model that is by being your spouse's biggest fan and hoping and wanting them to see them win. If we model it, all the other things that we kind of laid out as tools and tactics are so subservient to the big thing of the role modeling thing. And just for like the making sure it's like underlined, maybe highlighted, is we're doing this, like, we're just trying to do this with a level of awareness. We're not doing this right or at a super high level. We're just trying to do this with awareness. And I really think that that is the thing to understand. In order to have what we want, a fulfilled life, it really comes down to awareness of what do I believe a fulfilled life looks like. Then intention, what is the structure, the systems, what are the goals of that, and then action. Put them into action. And the action, nothing happens without action, but you have to have the awareness first of what the whole thing looks like. So if you walk out of here with the idea that it's about how I eat, sleep, train, think, and connect myself, modeling it with the first principles in place, we're going to be, 5, 6, 7 steps down that path. And that's all we're trying to do, because that they'll be in tow.
All right, so that is the foundation. The 5 factors: model it yourself, control the environment, be the person you want your kids to see. In the essay, we talk about how your ceiling becomes their starting point. It's actually the title. Whatever you model as normal becomes your child's baseline expectations for how adults behave. And that conversation with Ben and Heather is where a lot of that thinking came from. But knowing the framework, that's one thing. Actually implementing it is, of course, another. After the break, Ben breaks down 7 specific training strategies, things like praising effort over talent, following through on your promises, and being vulnerable without complaining. It's going to be after the break. We're brought to you by something I've loved lately, Aura Frames. If you're a last-minute shopper like me, you know the feeling. Shelves are empty, ideas are running low. Aura Frames, that's A-U-R-A, is the solution for a gift that feels personal. My parents are always hard to shop for. This year, though, I got them an Aura frame preloaded with photos of the boys, pictures from this past year, family moments they haven't seen, and throwbacks that hopefully will make them smile. You can upload unlimited photos and videos, preload them before it ships, and keep adding them from anywhere. We are always sending them new photos, and my folks love it. Every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box with no price tag. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com and get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using the code EXCELLENCE when you check out. That's auraframes.com. Use the code EXCELLENCE. This deal is exclusive to you, my friends, so order now and get it before the holidays. We're sponsored this time around by Cozy Earth, a brand dedicated to making your 5 to 9 the most comfortable part of your day. Visit CozyEarth.com. Use the code EXCELLENCE for up to 40% off. And be sure to order by December 12th for guaranteed Christmas delivery. When the holidays wind down, the one thing that I crave most is rest. I actually crave that almost all the time. And that's exactly what Cozy Earth delivers. Their bamboo sheets are the gift of better sleep, crafted from viscose from bamboo with a soft feel that keeps you cozy without overheating, helping you sleep several degrees cooler. Their bubble cuddle blanket is another standout. I love this thing. Ultra soft with a textured bubble design, perfect for cozy moments by the fire or movie nights with the family. They offer a 100-night sleep trial, so if you don't love them, you can return them hassle-free, but you're going to love them. Give the gift of comfort at CozyEarth.com with the code EXCELLENCE for up to 40% off. That's 40. So the first one is one that I think is actually really interesting and probably not many people sort of abide by it, which is spouse first, not the kids.
Yeah.
I can imagine that is almost controversial, but so I'm really curious what that means.
It was when I first heard it, it was I didn't buy into it. I always thought it was like, kids are everything. They are your everything. You run in front of traffic for them. You do whatever you can. And you and your spouse are a team to try to help them on this journey through life.
Yep.
And this actually was brought up to me first by a friend of mine who's really religious. And he says that he told me that the Bible actually says the opposite way. The Bible says, love your spouse first, your kids second. I'm butchering. It's definitely, I'm paraphrasing it at best, right? I'm paraphrasing what he paraphrased and I didn't read it. But essentially it says that it's about your wife or it's about your spouse. And here's the reason why. And after I talked to my wife about this and after I've lived with it for a little bit, it is so true. And the examples are everywhere. We see it now. The idea behind it is if you love each other, if you have such a strong relationship, if you guys are so invested in each other's happiness, your kids are just gonna be a byproduct of that. Now, the reverse of that is you're trying to work so hard to make sure your kids are like that your spouse takes a second seat. And now there's at worst resentment, or there's a scorecard of who stayed up last night and who's doing the dishes and all that stuff. And if that happens, like no matter what you try to do to invest into the kids, your kids see right through that. we see it all the time with some of the friends that we know through schools. They're not happily married at all, but the saying is that they're staying together for the kids. Yeah. Well, that's not for the kids. Like they're not doing anybody a favor. They're just trying to they're not investing in their own relationships. So the saying is spouse first, then kids. And the reason is if you love, and you show how much you love and you are invested in your marriage, your kids are just going to be a byproduct of that. Mm-hmm. And the opposite is not true. If you invest and do everything you can in your kids, it doesn't mean your relationship's going to be better. If your relationship isn't better, your kids aren't better.
Right. Cool. Okay. Second one. This one is not a surprise from you, but praise effort and character and not talent. But specifically, and we've talked about that
with athletes,
coaches,
and
exactly.
And
so
employees.
What does that look like with a totally different, much deeper relationship with a kid? And it should be said, your experience now parenting has been from, Maya's 18.
I have an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
So I'm really curious how you've navigated that wide gamut of, that principle with Bodhi is a lot different now than it is with Maya.
Yeah. So this stems from, I always mix these two up. It's either Angela Duckworth and grit or Carol Dweck and mindset. Yeah. So it's all about having this growth mindset. And they both reference, or at least one of them references, this really famous study where they took elementary school kids and they had them take a test. And when the kids got the test back, they got one of two notes written on the top of it. It either said, nice job on this, you're really smart. An equal number of kids got tests back that said, nice job on this, you worked really hard. They had kids retake another test that was 2 or 3 grade levels above their education. And the kids that got their feedback that said, you're really smart, did terrible on the test. They gave up because they couldn't push through and struggle and face. The saying was like, I'm smart, this is hard, I can't answer this, what's the deal, I'm out. Whereas the kids that got the response that said, you worked really hard, they gritted and they grinded through it and they pushed through it and they did phenomenal on the test. Substantially, astronomically better than the so-called smart kids. And the theory behind that is, the saying behind that is, it's not about intrinsic traits or talents. It's not what you've been gifted with. It's about the behaviors and what you put into it. It's about the work ethic. So if you reward the effort, not the results, you're going to get a much better long-term effect. Now, how does that manifest itself? What does that look like in parenting? Kid comes home and says, I got an A- on my test, and say, nice job, you aced it. You say, good job, you worked really hard on that. Mm-hmm. And similarly, if a kid is struggling, it's, well, you're not that good. You're not that good at this. It's, well, this is how we work hard. The bottom line is, don't ever say you are good at this. If you say you are good at this, they believe everything is inherently born into and they can't grow and develop. Humans are adaptable, changeable, learning machines. That's why we are the dominant species on this planet, that and opposable thumbs. But the biggest thing is how adaptable we are and how much we can learn. If you're putting in a fixed mindset into your kids, you are doing them a major disservice. I grew up with a fixed mindset in a lot of different areas. Yeah. And it's domain specific, meaning I grew up with a fixed mindset in terms of school. Mm-hmm. I thought that I was not smart. I couldn't read very well. I didn't do well in school at all. So I thought that I wasn't smart. And similarly in sports, if I picked up a sport and did well, wow, you're really good at skiing. You're really good at water sports, windsurfing, whatever it is. Oh, you're not as good at baseball or whatever it is. It's as opposed to rewarding, wow, you're working really hard at baseball. Good job. Wow, you worked really hard. You put a lot of practice into your skiing. Changes the game drastically for people.
Have you found it to be a challenge since most of the world seems to want to ascribe talent?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like you're battling, the kids come home and you've got to sort of rewire?
No, I don't think so. I kind of believe that my kids are in a bubble that I have ultimate influence over. Mm-hmm. That is something that I intrinsically take the ownership of. I am here to mold my kids. This is a great story. Harley, my youngest, 4-year-old, Harley wanted something. She wanted to play with a Barbie doll or play with a My Little Pony. And she's like, I want My Little Pony. I want My Little Pony. And we're like, Harley, what do you say? Looking for her to say, obviously, please. Yeah. Harley, what do you say? And she just threw out a saying that she goes, suffer in silence. Bodhi got hurt on the trampoline once, and Bodhi, it's okay. It's okay. Like, Bodhi, it's okay. What do you say? Like, when something hurts, and he goes, it's when I was in like the Jocko stuff, he gets hurt and he's laying there, he's like, good. It's like,
The brainwashing is working. Love it.
But if you take ownership of that, like it's the same deal. Like, you have control. Don't default to the teachers. Don't default to their peer group. Don't default to the media or society to raise your kids. It's up to you. And it's as simple as saying a few things repetitively. It takes 7 times before they hear it. So after the 7th or 8th time, you're not being a broken record. That's when they're hearing it for the first time, and they're sponges. And if they don't feel like they're hearing it, they're hearing it. But repetitive behaviors pay off big. Repetitive sayings pay off big.
So consistency.
Yes.
This one I think we've talked about a little bit, but no junk in the house. I assume you mean food.
Yeah. People ask me all the time, like, what should I have my kids eat? You know, like, it's the same thing as adults should eat. There's no reason to have a kids menu at a restaurant. They should eat the same thing we do.
Since I've heard you say that, I pay more attention to the children's menu. It's like mac and cheese and hot dogs or whatever.
Mac and cheese, chicken fingers, pizza, French fries, hot dogs. And then you go to the kids aisle and it's like crap with like fun colors and cartoons. You know, Go-Gurts and cereals, and it's just junk. So can you control what your kids eat 24 hours a day? Absolutely not. They're going to go to a birthday party. There's going to be things at school. But does that mean that you should like default at home too? That sounds ridiculous to me. If they're going to eat at school, like, then we should have the Cheez-Its and the Doritos at home. Like, it's exact opposite to me. And kids, other parents are like, well, aren't you afraid that they're going to binge it? It's, well, yeah, actually, you're probably right. We should probably have some Marlboro Lights at home too as well.
Because somebody will offer them a cigarette.
So we don't do, and there's no junk in our house. So someone will be like, you know, I want ice cream. It's like, okay, go for it. If you can find it, go get it. I want a cookie. Okay, go get it. It's like, there is no fights. They don't ask for it. It's literally, we never have a dessert and they never ask for it. It's never, ever asked for in our house. Now, they might ask for, what we do have is tortilla chips. We do have a perfect food bar or something like that. And they'll ask for things like that. Okay, if those are the treats,
right?
Yeah, if those are the treats, like a handful of sweet potato chips, like, we're doing okay. You know, it's.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember you saying is when you guys are out and maybe they do have a cake or ice cream or something, and then they sort of inevitably don't feel well. You sort of reinforce.
Totally.
Here's why you don't feel well.
Yeah.
And next time next time that they are presented with that, maybe they remember that, oh yeah, the last time I had a huge piece of cake, I did not feel so well.
It's just neuroassociation, right? You associate. It's great if you can do this, like you're saying, brainwashing type thing. But if we let our kids, if we go out and we're with other families and they're having pizza, we let our kids have pizza. After the first or second slice, we say, do you really, we don't say don't have one. We're like, do you really want another one? I don't want you to get a bellyache. And then they associate like too much pizza with bellyache. And that's just like by itself. It's like, you can have another piece, go for it, but I just don't want you to get a bellyache. It's like,
so you're just putting those things together.
And it's the same thing. Like we go out and we were at a baby shower for one of our friends, and obviously there's tons of junk there. There was cookies and cakes and brownies and everything like that. And our youngest, Harley, had a cookie. And then after the cookie, she's like, I want cake. I was like, Harley, baby, you already had a cookie. I don't want you to get a bellyache. She's like, no, I won't get a bellyache. I won't get a bellyache. It's like, all right, let's have a bite of it then. And it's like, okay, well, we don't have a belly. It's, I'm on your side. I'm doing this because I don't want you to get sick. Inevitably, they do. If they eat too much, and if they do eat too much, what a great opportunity to reinforce. This doesn't make you feel good.
Next one, follow through.
So this is like what I learned from Heather so incredibly well. She's awesome at it. The follow through thing is the same thing with any relationship you have. Everything is built off of trust, right? And the best way to create trust is to follow through, which means I do what I say and I say what I do. To Heather's thing is like, if there's ever a threat, if there's ever this looming punishment, if you don't do this, I'm going to take away your blanket. You're not going to go to your friend's house. We're not going to go watch a movie. We're not going to, whatever it is. It's like, a lot of parenting is just threatening. It's like, it's crazy. But that's like when you realize like, you have to incentivize the right behaviors, because you're trying to grow someone to become a civilized person in this society. And a lot of it becomes down to the appropriate bargaining chips. So if Harley and Bodhi are not sharing, they're yelling and they're screaming. If you don't share the My Little Ponies, there's gonna be no TV on Saturday morning. And if they don't do it, we follow through. And there's no TV on Saturday morning. And I
assume you remind them on Saturday morning why.
Yeah, or that's probably not a good analogy because it's, well, let's say it is Saturday morning.
Yep.
Let's say it is Saturday morning, they're crying and they're doing this. And it's, it's, if you do that, guys, I'm turning the TV off. And if they do it one little bit at all, because they're going to test. That's what kids do, especially toddlers. They test. They're trying to figure out the boundaries. And this is what causes bad behavior, is parents say, if you do that, I'm going to turn the TV off. And the kids, inevitably, I guarantee they're going to test. They're going to do it a little bit. Let's say that they're literally like, one person's got the neck and the other person's got the tail of the My Little Pony, and they're screaming. And you say, you take it and you put it into one kid's hands and you say, this is Harley. She got it for her birthday. Bodhi, you can't play with it. If you do, I'm going to turn off the TV. I promise you, he's going to reach and he's just going to touch it. He's going to poke it just because I find the boundaries. If you let that slide, you can't be trusted because your word is gone. If you turn the TV off right then, and there's going to be it's going to be an exponentially worse situation in the short run. It's going to be harder at that 10 minutes. There's going to be more emotions flaring up, but in the long run, they believe what you say. And now I know that there is a hard line. It's black or white. Dad and mom are not gray. And if we test, it's going to go. And I slide sometimes. And I slide and I go into the gray area a lot. And I'm staring at him and he'll touch it. I'll stand there like, Bodhi, like, why would you? I just said that. Like, what are you doing, buddy? I don't want to punish you. I want you to watch TV. I want you to be able to do this. It's so hard to do it. But if you slide and you slide and you slide, but then, and you realize, I got to get back to the hard line. And once you get back to the hard line, it's amazing what happens in such a short period of time.
The thing that I think is really interesting, that is you as the parent have to be willing to say, I'm going to enforce that, even though it's going to make the next half hour of my life
make it way worse,
way harder than before.
Here's the other thing: is you don't want to. It's better to. I can't think of the other word, but threaten. It's better. What's the word? I don't know if there's.
It's promise to a larger degree.
Yeah, so it's better to make the promise in things that are not going to be intrinsically valuable or beneficial to them. So experiences are really good for kids. So it's better not to take away experiences. So don't say you're not going to the birthday party. Don't make threats you're not going to follow through on. Don't say we're not going to the Cape this summer. You're going to go to the Cape this summer. So if he does it and do it on things that you can follow through with, and say, you're not going to get your applesauce. You're not going to, I'm going to take away your blanket. you're not going to watch TV, whatever it is. But don't say you can't play with your friends. You can't go to the birthday party. You can't go on the ski trip. Like those things you're not going to follow through on anyway. So don't make those threats and don't take away experiences. Take away what Heather's great at is, Bodhi, we were just down the Cape and she got him this 100-piece army set. So whenever he does something bad, she said, I'm taking one of your guys.
so his army is diminished.
So now he has got an army. Now he has an army of like 94. And she got him this like 2 days ago. So, and he's like, no, but she goes home and she, in front of him, takes it. And it's like, he's like, crap.
He's losing forces.
Yes.
All right. Next one is be open and vulnerable, but never complain.
This is the same type of thing as whether you're in management or you're a coach or any leadership position. Vulnerability creates greater levels of trust. It also opens the people up underneath you to behave in really positive ways because they're not afraid to expose weaknesses, which we all have, or expose truths, or expose areas of question. So if you put yourself up on the pedestal and you're the all-knowing, all-being, utilitarian, godlike figure, like you're unrelatable. But if you are a parent and when you make mistakes, you tell them like, that's my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Whether it's like walking around and you step on your kid's toe and like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like that, obviously that's an easy one. So I didn't mean to, but if it's so easy to like not be vulnerable, to try to be bulletproof. But if you are open, honest, and vulnerable, you will encourage really strong behaviors. And this goes right through like corporate management or coaching an athletic team or whatever it is. Be a human being and show them how human you are. But because you're being vulnerable, because you're being open, because you're being honest, doesn't give you a license to complain, particularly about other people. Never complain about other people in front of your kids. Never complain about, especially other family members, your wife or your spouse. Never complain about the teachers at school. Never complain about the other kids who are their friends. because that's going to lead down a road that they then become this type of thing where they are going to mirror your actions and they're going to look at everything. Imagine the opposite. Imagine if they never heard a bad word, you speak a bad word about anyone ever, as opposed to you just like having a conversation with your wife when you're driving the car and you're complaining about your kids' teachers in front of them. Now, how is your kids going to act with your teachers then when they go back? Because they're like, Mom and Dad said teacher doesn't know what they're doing, that they're not paying attention, that they are X, Y, Z. If you never make those comments, you don't open up that Pandora's box.
Sympathize.
I somehow stumbled into this by mistake. And then I came across some research later on that supported it. So toddlers, like 2-year-olds, are crazy to deal with. You have a 1.5-year-old, right? It's coming. And they talk about the terrible 2s. I think the 3s might be even like crazier. You can't rationalize. There's no rationalization. So I got to this point where my toddler would be like, whatever. Like I'm using My Little Pony all the time. But like, I want My Little Pony. I want My Little Pony. And we took it away for some reason. Instead of being like, Harley, we took away your My Little Pony because you were fighting with Bodhi. Do you remember doing that? I want My Little Pony. Harley, if you just listen to me, babe, you're going to get it back if you just stop crying. If you stop crying, I will give you My Little Pony. I want My Little Pony. You cannot rationalize. Instead, you sympathize. And I came across this research, which it's like the rational brain versus the lizard brain and the subconscious mind. And the best book I've come across in this is a book called Never Split the Difference, written by a hostage FBI negotiator who's turned it into business negotiations. And in business negotiation, we were told always humans are rational. We are rational beings, and we've tried to find the win-win scenario. No, we are not rational, and you win-win is probably win-lose. It's instead what you want to do is sympathize and just tell the person you understand where they're coming from. And once a person feels like you understand them, then they will listen. So I came across this like by mistake with Harley. She's like, I want My Little Pony. And instead of being like, if you stop crying, I'll give it to you. It was, I want My Little Pony. I was like, you want My Little Pony? Yes, I want My Little Pony. I know, Harley, you want My Little Pony. I do. You want My Little Pony, don't you? You want My Little Pony back? Okay, I know you want your My Little Pony. And she's off playing with Barbie. It's if you just go down that road of just literally telling them, I understand you. And the way they talk about this in the business negotiation is you repeat back. It's called mirroring. You say things back to them, and then you label emotions. You actually tell them what they're feeling. It seems like you don't feel like my business can fall through on our promises. It seems like you have some questions about our pricing. It seems like you've experienced this type of situation before. And like when people are like, yes, I have. You understand me. It seems like you're a man of great faith. Yes, I am. It's like, all of a sudden, now we're on level footing ground. That stuff is away. This person understands me. I don't even care what the deal is. I feel like you're going to put my best interest in first.
It feels similar to something we've talked about before, which is sincere listening or active listening, or very, very similar.
It's a lot of the same stuff. So from body language to eye contact,
even in tactful conflict resolution, to a degree, is very similar to that.
But that labeling, that sympathetic listening, like repeating back to people, telling them what they want, especially for toddlers who you will not ever be able to rationalize with a toddler.
Logic into them.
There's no logic. So instead, repeat back their emotion to them. You're upset because.
Have you had any experience with the older kids in a version of that that's a little necessarily probably needs to be a little more nuanced?
Yeah, it's just not as exaggerated. Right. So they're not crying about My Little Pony. They're
mine might be, but
right. We're lucky enough that our 18 and 14-year-olds are
studs.
Like not normal people. They're like Maya's working as my assistant coach this year, and she's one of the best coaches I've ever had on my staff at 18 years old. Jonah is my 14-year-old. I have literally in 14 years never seen him upset. Like crazy weird really stuff. Cool. Besides being a toddler. Being a toddler, every toddler gets upset.
Next one is no quitting.
Okay, so this is again the grit, perseverance, fortitude, all that stuff. But it's also has to do with creating a passion. And people are like, I just want my kids. I believe this. If you can get your kids to be really good at one thing, there's so much benefit to that because there's so much self-confidence. And then if they're good at one thing, they learn what hard work looks like and how.
What age are you thinking is when you?
As they're getting in through high school is where I believe. But as young kids, it's important for them to try a bunch of things because you might not like gymnastics and you might not like jiu-jitsu and you might not like ballet and you might not like swimming. You might not like soccer. But if you let people just start and stop, you're creating a quit mentality, which like once anything gets hard, I'm going to stop. And what we is like, you can stop anything you want to do, but you got to see it through the season. You committed to this. You can't stop until the season's over. If you signed up for T-ball, you're going to every T-ball practice. I know you don't want to go today. You made a commitment. This is what we're going to do. At the end of the season, if you don't want to do it, go for it. There's a great, I'm forgetting her name. This is bad, but she's the most decorated U.S. gymnast ever. It's not Mary Lou Retton. It's much more, it's not Simone Biles. It's, I can't remember her name. Nadia something. Anyway, she would come home from gymnastics practice and her dad was her coach. And she would come back and she'd be like, I just hate gymnastics. I hate it. I'm never going back. And mom would say, you don't have to go back. You don't have to go back. You don't ever have to do gymnastics again. As long as you go back tomorrow. And then she would go back and it's always tomorrow. And it was always tomorrow. You can quit as long as you go back tomorrow. And it's that kind of mentality. And like all of a sudden, you don't allow your kids to quit in the middle of something. You create some skills and they start to get better at it. And those skills can develop into a passion. If it's a passion, it's something they can do and where they can blend. And here's kind of the idea behind this is I feel like I've been lucky enough to create this blend where I have really good opportunities. I have some skill set and some talents from the years of pounding on the craft. And it's a passion. It's a thing I love in terms of what I do. If you create that for your kid where they are in a job that they go into in their early, late, mid 20s, whatever it is, or even in their early 30s, they can find that where they can blend the line between work and play. To me, that's like the ultimate success in life. If work feels like play and you are psyched for Monday morning and you are like Friday and Thursday and Saturday all feel the same, like that's a great life. The way you do that is by getting ridiculously good at something that you can make a living doing. Now, whether that's painting or violin or it's computer programming or it's soccer, whatever it is, get your kids to be really good at something because I think there's so much value that goes into that work ethic and the confidence and what it means to have a passion.
And so when you see something resembling a passion in a younger kid, maybe early teens, do you talk to them about, let's try to focus on this thing that you seem really passionate about? Or how open and honest about that process and the value of that process are you? Or is it like, you and Heather say, he seems to be really, into photography and let's make sure we keep giving him opportunities to do that? Or is it both?
Or neither. Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, it's yes, I think it's all those things. It's probably something that with our oldest Maya, we didn't have to do because she found it. And she was so like from age 8, she was the stud athlete, right? She was the best on her. Every team she did, she was the best. So we didn't have to do that. With Jonah, I think we kind of thought that was going to happen as well. We knew it wasn't going to be sports, but we thought it would happen with something else. And one of the reasons I'm kind of big into this right now is because we didn't do it with him. And he started something and he stopped. He started something. And once he got fairly good, and he's really talented. Once he got fairly good at CrossFit, he stopped. Once he got fairly good at magic, he stopped. Once he got fairly good at piano, he stopped. Once he got fairly good at writing music, he stopped. We didn't allow him.
That's the story of my life for a long time.
Yeah. So it's like we didn't push, we didn't pursue, we didn't look for the next opportunity. And now he's going into high school. And now I think that's time to push into one thing that he's shown some interest in. Because most of us are not born with a passion. We find it. And if you don't find it, you develop it. And it's a matter of doubling down on your strengths. We talk a lot in this about exposing weaknesses and working on your weaknesses because it's inherent to what we do for our athletes. in terms of being exceptional at something, it's about doubling down on your strengths. And that's, I think, is really important for kids.
Those 7 strategies are things you can start using today. That's why I love them. But one domain where parents have a lot of questions is youth athletics and training. How do you introduce weights? What should kids focus on at different ages? How do you balance sports with general fitness? So after the break, we're answering 6 questions about kids and training, kind of practical stuff you can apply if you've got young athletes in your house. It's going to be after the break. We're sponsored by our friends at Element, the electrolyte drink formulated to restore health through hydration. Go to drinkelement.com/excellence to receive a free sample pack with any of your orders. You feel the difference when you get your electrolytes right. Headaches fade, cramps disappear, brain fog lifts, and fatigue goes away. You also get a little bit more handsome. Element was born from research showing that optimal health occurs at sodium levels 2 to 3 times government recommendations, and each serving delivers exactly what your body needs. It's perfectly suited for athletes, folks who are fasting, or those following keto, low carb, or paleo diets. Professional athletes like 6-time CrossFit Games winner Tia Claire Toomey, NBA players, and Navy SEAL teams use Element to stay dialed in. Lemonade salt is now a permanent flavor, refreshing, versatile, and part of your new daily routine. Element is completely risk-free. If you don't like it, you will though. They'll refund your money. No questions asked. Get your free sample pack with any order. drinkelement.com/excellence. We're brought to you this time around by Function Health, the only platform giving you the data that most people never get and the insights to actually do something about it. Inside Function, you get access to over 160 lab tests annually, everything from hormones to toxins to markers of heart health, inflammation, and stress, all of it tracked in a secure place over time. Here's what I have noticed. Whenever I show friends or family my Function dashboard and walk them through what you actually get, they're hooked. They see the clarity it provides, and most of them end up signing up. So this year, I'm just going to give Function memberships to the people I care about most, because what better gift than to give someone the clarity around their health? Most gifts fade, let's be honest. This one helps the people you love stay healthy. We use this here, and we think you should as well. You can own your health for just $365 a year. That's $1 a day. Learn more and join by using our link, functionhealth.com/excellence, or just use the gift code excellence25 for a $25 credit towards your membership. We have listener questions, but listener questions focused on a particular area. So we're going to focus on our move bucket or our train bucket. And inside of that, we've got a bunch of questions, 6 specifically, 6 questions from parents about helping their kids with fitness/sports/training. This first one is from Tom. He says, my 11-year-old son is starting his first year in the Swiss Ski Talent Program next season, slalom in G5, or GS. I think that's maybe GS.
Yes, it's GS.
Okay, cool. Over the past 2 years, he's progressed from the top 20 to the top 10, and now to the podium by working hard and learning from failures. We've noticed that many ski families with generations of athletes engage in a lot of quote-unquote extra training. However, we want our kids to participate in a variety of sports to avoid over-specialization. Both our kids, 11 and 8, already cross-train with ice hockey and ski mountaineering in winter and athletics and cycling in summer. If we could add just one more activity per week to improve movement patterns and strength, what do you think it would be? We don't have access to a CrossFit gym nearby. So there's the question, is one activity to add per week to improve movement patterns and strength. What do you think it should be?
Yeah. Plyometrics. Jumping, bounding, explosive work. It's at really, when you think of athleticism, most people refer to what is at its core plyometric. It's speed, quickness, agility, power. That's what plyometrics are. For a ski racer, the transferability would be incredible because it's that really kind of that sweet spot of being able to move your body quickly but powerfully. And for a slalom racer, the quickness matters. For a GS racer, it's the combination of both. And he's young, he'll end up doing Super G and other stuff, which is more the strength side. But for sure, plyometrics, what I mean by plyometrics is just different forms of bounding and jumping. There's a lot of good Instagram handles that speak to this as sports coaches, but you could also just do it on your own. And it's very low rep, so under 10 for sure, but most plyometrics are done in like the 1 to 3 rep range. So a quick little easy example of this would be, the simplest is a box jump, right? Jump up on a box, you're trying to jump on higher and higher boxes. one of the ones that I really like is a couple lateral hops over a hurdle. If you don't have a hurdle, get a broomstick and just have them jump over a broomstick. You prop the broomstick off of a bench or a chair and have them jump over that, and then one big forward bound. So you go like over, so right, left, jump forward. And the more explosive an athlete is, essentially the better the athlete is, all else being equal. It's an incredible tool, and you can use it at any age. They're kind of relatively crazy safe to do as long as you don't overtrain them. And as long as you stay in that 1 to really think like 4, 5, 6 rep range, that's kind of the real sweet spot for plyometric work.
All right, cool. That was from Tom. Next question is from Matthias. He says, my 8-year-old son was on a soccer team where the coach prioritized winning over inclusivity. As a result, my son wasn't picked for 4 consecutive games and came home feeling like a bad player. I decided to withdraw him from the team, and now he's thriving in other sports. Was it the right choice, or should I have told him that you need to work harder to be picked?
No, it was the right choice. I know that there's this big thing of like, try to get your kid on the best possible team. If they're not traveling, multiple states on every weekend to be able to compete against the highest levels of competition, then you're not one of the cool kids. I could not disagree with that more. From Malcolm Gladwell to a whole bunch of different studies, it showed it's much, much more beneficial to be a big fish in a small pond than the reverse. For everything from not only self-esteem of like actually getting some time and actually being feeling like a valued member. We're Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like you want to have a sense of belonging, and there's this hierarchy we're hierarchical beings, and kids know where they stand on the totem pole of every team. And it does not feel good to be somebody that is not contributing or not valued. And that's just a surefire way for me to like burn out or something else. There's these kids that we talk about with our other parents that their kids will travel, and it sounds like it's Matthias's kid was one of these, and credit to him. There's these kids that will travel, we're in Boston, travel to Canada and Minnesota and all over the place for these hockey teams, and they ride the bench. And they're not getting any playing time. They're not getting any games. They practice with these great kids, but most of them are just being jam-packed with travel and games. That's what the majority of these teams are now, because it's become a business. And it's like, we got to get the kids playing in these tournaments and winning. And that's what the coach is rewarding for. That is not, it's one of the big detriments of youth athletics, in my opinion, in America right now. This doesn't happen in other countries. In other countries, they value practice time and development. Here, we value game time and winning. Those are the exact polar opposites. Instead of getting lots of touches in practice and learning how to play the game better in games, they do the opposite. They do lots and lots of games, not practice. And if you're not winning, the sidelines of these 10-year-old games and the parents freaking out when the team scores a goal and like being crushed when the other team scores a goal. It's like, why does that matter at all? Other than you've put a premium on winning, which has been disseminated to your kids, and you don't want to have that really bad car ride home because your kid is going to be a mess. This is Matthias is spot on. It's so much more beneficial to be a big fish in a small pond, not only for self-esteem, not only for a sense of belonging, but also your kid is going to get more touches. If we're here for development, they're going to become better. They just need touches and touches and touches. It's one of the things that when you go and watch a soccer practice, like I would measure a soccer practice at that age, certainly under the age of 10, just by how many times are they touching a soccer ball. Like game theory, strategy, placing, spacing, all these things that coaches put so much emphasis on. They're going to learn how to play the game. They're going to figure out how to play the game.
Yeah.
What they will not figure out is how to become better soccer players. It's actually the exact opposite, and this makes sense. There's an incredible European soccer league coach who's like, he's one of the best soccer coaches in the world. He's like, my job is not to make better soccer players. My job is to get them to work together as a team. Well, it's the opposite at the youth age. At the youth age, the goal is to develop soccer players, not to get people to win. Like, that's not what it's about. So this is a really long answer to saying I completely agree with Matthias's standpoint that he should be pulling his kid out of that team and out of that league.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll just say my oldest is 7, and I can't even fathom him playing soccer, basketball, whatever, and being such a priority on winning that my kid wouldn't play. To me, that seems so insane. And I think for me, again, with a 7-year-old, my priority for him playing is, are you enjoying it? Not because like life is all about enjoying things, but because if he ever does actually want to get good at soccer or basketball or whatever the sport is, it's only going to come on the back of like, he has fun with it. He has fun with it. So he does more of it. So he practices in the backyard. So he looks forward to the next game. So he looks forward to the next season. And if I kill that at 7 or 8, if I kill the fun because he's not winning or he's not playing enough or he's not developing at a certain speed that's some sort of arbitrary measurement, well, when he's 10 and 11 and 12, he's just like, he's going to look at it like, do I want to do that anymore? Nothing I've done so far has been particularly fun. So am I really going to invest my energy or my effort into getting a little bit better at soccer or a little bit better at basketball? And I just got to think, no, he's probably not going to.
Yeah, it's a measure what matters thing, right? Like what you measure gets improved. If the team and the organization, the coach value winning above all else, yeah, you're not going to play the underdeveloped kid. Like you're not going to. But if it's about the development of the team, about the development of each individual, and development of their character and their skills, well, it's a totally different ballgame. And the problem is that youth sports is a business now.
Yeah,
that's completely the difference. So how do you measure what is a good successful organization? Well, it's the one that wins states and regionals and nationals. Like that's how you do it. And the team that wins the most is the best organization. Unfortunately, that's not the case because that's a transactional coaching experience where we need transformational coaches. And transformational coaches are going to be out of a job if that's the metric for success.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Matthias, for the question. Next one we've got is from Johans. He says, my 10-year-old son is a dedicated soccer player. With the school year ending, we will be on a 5-week summer trip to Europe. I want to use this holiday as a quote-unquote preseason training period to help him get stronger and better prepared for more physical matches. He is on the lighter side for his age, with some peers being 10 to 15 kilos heavier. How should I approach this preseason training? Again, I think he said 5 weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so 5 weeks summer training program. They're going they say on vacation? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, 5-week summer trip to Europe.
Awesome. Okay. And he's way undersized. That's 12 to 30 pounds lighter than everybody else. How can we use these 5 weeks to kind of bulk him up, get him ready for the physicality? You can't, and you shouldn't. The goal is not going to be to get him beefier in those 5 weeks. People develop at different speeds and different. So what you can do is help him create a little bit of strength, but the size thing at that age, size is not going to. Now, just to say it, if you were talking about 18 and 19-year-olds, we can talk about how to create more size. Different. Yep. But pre-puberty, you can't control size with training. You're not going to do it. So instead, what you want to do is get him stronger, which it sounds like I'm saying the same thing. It's not. Strength and size are very well correlated, but they're not the same, particularly at that age. So this is my son. My son is undersized. Bodie, he's a 12-year-old soccer player, and a lot of the kids on the team, have 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds on him. But he is one of the stronger kids, and certainly pound for pound, he's probably the strongest kid on the team. So you can get the kid stronger, and it's by doing really simple, all you need to do is really simple body weight stuff. And it's by doing, we already answered plyometrics, that's getting a kid more explosive, but it's crazy, like in soccer, go watch a higher level match, how much upper body strength, this is something I didn't appreciate until I started watching more soccer, how much upper body strength is required in soccer. It's like basketball in terms of the body positioning, the grabbing, the pushing. It's a lot more physical than people give it credit for. So you doing simple like pull up, push up, sit up, squat. You just keep doing that stuff If you want to give very light weights to him, because you can travel with that, you can travel with a pair of 10-pound dumbbells. Awesome. If you're going to do that, my suggestion would be do thrusters. Like do sets of thrusters, meaning hold the dumbbells in a hammer grip, meaning your palms are facing each other at your shoulders. So one head of the dumbbell is on the shoulders, the other head is straight ahead of you, and your palms are facing each other. It's a front rack dumbbell position. Squat down to full depth, stand and press them overhead. Do sets of 10. 3 sets of 10, you're going to get so much stronger. Now, here's the thing I would actually suggest that they work on in these 5 weeks is speed. Is speed. Strength is going to come over time. Size is going to come over time. It's not the biggest differentiator, particularly at this age. Even with the kids 10 to 15 kilos heavier than they are, you're still not going to out-muscle those kids. Make it so they can't catch them. And the best way to do that is short duration, moderate hill sprints. So find a moderate hill, meaning not like a mountain, but something he can use his normal running mechanics on. So it looks like he's normally running, not like he's running up a mountain. A good example of this would be like running up stairs. If you're running up stairs, it doesn't look like you're running. But a little incline and do short sprints up an incline. Something that lasts probably between 3 to 8 seconds. They'll call it 4 to 8.
Real
These are
short.
numbers.
Yep.
Yeah, real short. 4 to 8 seconds. Just blast and burst. Blast and burst. That would be the number one thing I would focus on with him. And the second thing would be conditioning. So you could build up some really speed. So you're going to keep people to the ball. That's the thing. You're going to beat them to the ball so you don't have to play the game of the size. Beat them to the ball, and then conditioning so you can do that throughout the whole game. Conditioning is a really simple program, 4 to 8 second sprints, 4 to 8 reps. Lots of rest in between. So this is full efforts, everything you have. And then after that, just stretch it out a little bit and do like gassers. And you're a soccer player, so you know what the gas. You run to the 18 and back, half midfield and back. Yep. And you do like 4 to 6 of those with about 30-second rest in between.
All right. We got 3 more questions. This one is from Ricky. He says, my 10-year-old son is very active in sports like soccer and flag football. A lot of soccer today. I heard in one episode that Bodie was doing deadlifts, the aforementioned Bodie. At what age should I start introducing weights to my son? I'm active in CrossFit and played college football. I want to make sure I don't introduce weights too early.
You can't introduce them too early. They're already lifting. They pick up their backpack. They help you pick up their groceries. They're already lifting. Now, it's just what we kind of conflate with lifting, which is lifting heavy loads. You can and should. It's the same question as like, when should I start my kids skiing? It's like, well, you can start them young. It's normal anatomical, functional, daily movements that we do all the time. So we want to get them to hone those really strong movement patterns. So the first answer to that is now or even younger. And the thing we want to do is to get them to learn how to do the movements, not try to get as strong as possible. I think that the Chinese weightlifting team does such a great job of this. They put so much emphasis on technique at a young age that essentially when the athletes become late teens, 17, 18, 19, technique is, they don't have to do much technique work at that point.
Interesting.
It's strength because they move so well. Think about a swimmer. If you honed in the technique incredibly well when the kid was 4 to 12 years old, those 8 years, it was just like technique. It's not how fast they get down the pool. It's about, can they swim with incredible proficiency and technique? Well, then from 12 to 17, you just build fitness. And it's just like, let's just go and hammer that. And that's very much the mentality I take towards weightlifting, is kids should not be lifting heavy. They don't need to be lifting heavy, and they certainly shouldn't be lifting heavy and fast. So they should be controlled. It should look really, really good. And I stole this from Coach Bergner, who's sent his kids and bunch of other people to the Olympics. I think I went and visited his house with you. You were there one
Oh,
time.
yeah.
when I was,
Yeah. Well, that was years ago. Yes, we
Years,
did.
yep.
That was fun.
The idea was when he was working with his kids in Olympic lifting was like, you're not allowed to add weight unless that rep before looked perfect. If that rep looked perfect, meaning Coach B, who's sends people to the Olympics, he knows Olympic lifting, says, I don't know what else I would fix on that, then yeah, add 5 pounds on each side. But and then until that rep looks perfect, we're not going to add weight. So it's that. We're taking those types of jumps. To me, that is a very methodical approach to weightlifting. So you start them off with a broomstick, and you teach your kids how to deadlift with a broomstick, and how to bench press with a broomstick, and how to front and back squat with a broomstick. And if the technique looks perfect to the point where you, in your coaching ability, you can't figure out a way to make it look better, well, then now it's time to increase intensity. But before that, it's still the technique game. We have to play the technique game. So technique and intensity are at odds. And we want to make sure that it's a technique game as long as it possibly can be. So that's when I would introduce it and then not allow people to lift heavier. And that's what we've done with Bodhi and our kids program as well, as we try to just keep it. That looked really, really good. Next week, add 5 pounds. And nope, that didn't quite look like it. We're going to stay there. But it's not like we're taking 30-pound jumps and it gets horrific. You're taking what was really, really dialed, and then, we added 5 pounds. There's a little deviation. Let's hang out here. This is a good threshold for us. We're building this huge foundation underneath us so that when they become older, then they can start to make gains a lot faster.
Yeah, got it. Next question is from Eric. My 11-year-old daughter recently attended her first CrossFit class and enjoyed it. The class is for teens aged 14 to 17, so everyone is older than her. What precautions should I take to protect her from injury given her young age and developing body? For instance, should she avoid heavy weights or any specific exercises? I know you both have kids in CrossFit, so how would you handle this?
Yeah, there's like a twofold question to this. For somebody that's beginning, period, I would avoid certain movements.
Yep.
So
by which you mean
yes,
adults
correct.
or kids? Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. For anyone starting. And that is like the full complexity of the Olympic lifts when they're done to their full. Now, hang power clean, we could teach a 14-year-old to 17-year-old, or I'm sorry, that's what the class was. Did Eric say how old his daughter was?
She's 11.
11.
So the class,
okay.
You're right. Class is
Got it.
14 to 17, but she's 11.
Yeah, if the class is doing squat snatches, squat cleans, split jerks, stuff like that, again, that would be okay with a PVC pipe or a broomstick because there's no intensity. It's just we're having kids jump around a little bit. To me, there's no concern for that. It's when we start loading, and similar to an adult, it's when we start loading those movement patterns. And those are fairly complex. So a new athlete, adult or kid, we could start to go with PVC pipe, front squat, back squat, deadlift, hang power clean, hang power squat. I feel really good about that. And then depending on the road, we might be able to get that athlete up to working with an empty barbell. I don't know if an 11-year-old needs to go past that. And when I mean empty barbell for an 11-year-old, I mean a 15-pound training bar. From there, the other thing we'd want to do in terms of like, is there anything that they should be staying away from? Yes, it's any high-level loading at speed. The way we structure our kids program, and when I say kids, I mean middle school and below, elementary and middle school, post-puberty teens is different. It's a different ballgame. But we don't have them race with weights. Meaning if there's a Metcon, the Metcon is body weight or running or machines. So our Metcons consist of things like box jumps, burpees, biking, running, things that they can go quickly with. Towards the end of the season, we get them to do things like goblet squats. And that's about as far as we go with it, is we'll have them hold one dumbbell and squat there, but it's a little more controlled than just kind of like what we do with the adult classes.
Got it. Last question we've got. I don't have a name for it, but here it is. I work with individual clients and I'm about to take on a teenage client. She's 14 and wants to take CrossFit more seriously. I've worked with her in a class setting for a few months, and strength is her biggest area of improvement or for improvement. How should she lift at her age, and what percentage of her training should be strength-based versus conditioning, running, rowing, metcons, etc.?
Yeah. For a 14-year-old, the majority of their training should be strength. Strength takes years, measured in decades. If you want to get strong, it takes 10 years to get strong. If you want to get fit, it takes months, and in a year or two, you could be pretty darn fit. Mm-hmm. So at age 14, we want to start strength. Without going into percentages, it's easier just to lay it out. They should be strength training 3 times a week at age 14. Very much like Mark Ripto's starting strength methodology, focus on the slow lifts, squat, dead, and press. And they can be doing all 3 of those lifts 3 days a week. It's very different for athletes at that age. It's very different than that's considered a beginner athlete, very different than intermediate, advanced, or certainly an elite athlete. We would not have them squatting 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. The way that you want to progress this athlete is a little bit the way we've already talked about. Let's talk about it in a little bit different terminology, which is you can have them lift TTF, which is one of our principles in CompTrain, which is 2 technical failure. It's the Bergner methodology, which is they can lift, but the moment there is a deviation in technique, they stop. They don't fight through a rep. They don't go for another one and try and make it look better. Once the form breaks down, the bar goes to the ground, assuming we're doing something like a front squat or a deadlift. Mm-hmm. If we're doing a bench press, obviously it goes to the rack. But this would be the methodology, would be someone that has the focus of teenage years should be built on strength. They're going to get plenty of their conditioning through other endeavors like playing sports. This is the thing that they want to do. And we can always do a quick peak for conditioning, meaning we're going to do 8 months of strength building and then the little 6 to 10 week little ramp up before their season if they want to do that thing. And we can also just do a lot more strength focused and do a quick little metcon. And when I mean that, I really mean that, a quick little metcon of 3 to 10 minutes at the end of the conditioning pieces. Mm-hmm. As long as we are doing that and not exceeding technical proficiency, we are working within the constraints of working with a 14-year-old new to CrossFit.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine there's a instinct that says, well, this kid, us in general, can't get stronger unless the weights get heavier. So how do you square the technical failure or the two technical failure with the knowledge that a lot of times that means we're not moving up in weight? We're not adding 10 pounds. We're not adding 15 pounds. How do you square I still want them to get stronger. And this is how Ben says that she needs to get stronger, but she's been at this weight for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because that's just where her technical failure is. How do you square those two things? How does she get stronger if the weight doesn't get heavier?
Yep. There's 3 different waves of adaptation that take place from training. The first wave of adaptation is a neurological component. It's actually she's not getting stronger, but just from the exposure to the movements, just her getting better at the movements, strength gains will happen. You need to focus on technique during this first wave. So it will happen. Now, it doesn't need to happen the next session or the next week, but you focusing on technique in the beginning phases is the appropriate way to get those first wave adaptations, which are all neurological. You're going to get stronger. The other way to do that is to bypass technique and you work with machines. Mm-hmm. And then you can do that. But that's not what the strength we're looking for. To me, that is not what we want. There is a second wave adaptation and a third wave adaptation, but this is what I'm saying is the athlete will get stronger when you combine the frequency of which they're going to see these exposures and the fact that they are just so full of, they're about to go through their growth phase that the alternative isn't an option. They can't not get stronger. It's not like working with, even, this is kind of weird. They did a study with 70-year-olds. And 70-year-olds that trained consistently saw, this flies in the face of what we've been told, increased not only strength, which we've been told can't happen after the age of 40. It's just the old literature. It's like you look back at the old stuff. There's reports out there from exercise physiologists that say females can't do pull-ups. Like in our community, that's just like, it's insanity. It makes no sense because we know they can. Then the research said you can't get stronger and have better endurance at the same time. Well, we know that to be the case. Then they said you can't gain muscle mass and strength after the age of 45 because of the sarcopenia and the aging process and the all the stuff that takes place with that. Yet there's studies showing that 70-year-olds are gaining muscle mass. You can do it at any age. Now, this is the opposite of that. Even without this athlete doing anything, honestly, just the actual aging process, you gain strength. Meaning if this athlete never went to the gym, it just makes sense, right? A 6-year-old is not going to be able to lift, untrained, is not going to be able to lift what a 16-year-old could lift, untrained. You gain strength just through adolescence. So why do we need to artificially speed that up when we could just be focused on technique and allow ourselves that really awesome opportunity post-puberty?
All right, now let's talk about one of the harder truths of parenting. You can't protect your kids from adversity. And honestly, we shouldn't even try. One of the themes in the essay, again, linked in the show description, isn't something you teach through lectures. It's something you model through daily responses to ordinary problems. Your kids need to see you navigate challenges. Simple as that. They need to experience age-appropriate setbacks themselves because that's how they learn that hard things will not break them. In the next conversation, Ben and I dig into how you can help your kids deal with adversity without shielding them from it. We talk about the difference between peacetime and wartime, when to teach and when to just get through the moment. And we talk about conditioning, how the experiences your kids have matter less than how they learn to interpret those experiences. This one's short, but it's important. We're going to get to it right after the break. We're brought to you by our friends at Momentous. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners up to 35% off your first order with the promo code EXCELLENCE. Creatine has become one of those daily non-negotiables for me, not just for building muscle, but for strength, focus, recovery, cognitive performance. Momentous is making it easier with their new creatine chews, bite-sized lemon lime chews that make consistency effortless. Just chew and go on with your day. Each chew delivers exactly 1 gram of CreaPure creatine monohydrate, the gold standard, single sourced from Germany and NSF certified for sport, independently tested for purity, and trusted by Olympic athletes, pro sports teams, and elite military operators. There's no artificial sweeteners, no fillers, just science-backed performance in a portable format. Whether you're training, working, or traveling, this is performance without pause. Go to livemomentous.com, use the promo code EXCELLENCE for up to 35% off your order. Here's the question. This is from a listener. On the show, you talk about conditioning quite a bit and how it plays a large role in our lives, that our experiences create the lens from which we view the world, and that we are often products of our environment. Another frequent topic of discussion is adversity and how it most often has a positive reaction when it comes to personal growth and development. As parents of young children, how do you find the balance between unhealthy conditioning and necessary adversities, particularly regarding what young children may or may not be exposed to at school? Should I homeschool and create the environment in which I'd like for their conditioning to take place, or send them off to school where they can learn to deal with all sorts of adversities, some of which I'd rather they didn't?
Okay, so let's, before we go into like the specifics of the questions, just lay out what we mean by this conditioning.
Yeah.
And throughout our lives, we experience things, and those experiences lay the foundation of a program that we then run for the rest of our lives. So it's, another word for the conditioning is programming. You become hardwired, pre-programmed to respond to circumstances based off of the past experiences you've had.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing that we have to address before we get into this question, which is it is actually not, and this is going to answer the question for the, did they say their name?
No, we don't have the name of this one.
It is not the experiences that create the conditioning or the programming. It is the way that we interpret those experiences. So as a parent, the thing that you want to do, you don't want to put them in a bubble. That's the exact opposite way to do this, because then they're not going to get the exposure to these things, and you're going to precondition them that life is
The
a bubble.
stimulus is not the problem.
Yeah, it's not the stimulus. It's the way we respond to the stimulus. So let's give an example of this. Let's say, I'm trying to come up with this in real time. We have like, when we do the laundry, is it normal? Like when we do the dryer, like it buzzes when it's done?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Let's say for giggles, every time that buzzer goes off, both parents freak out in the house.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh my God, the laundry's done. The laundry, like Jane, quick, upstairs, get the laundry done. And she's like, oh my God, Bill. Oh my God. We got okay. There's an experience.
I apologize to everybody. The volume just jacked up there, but okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
But it's the way that experience was interpreted. Like, oh my God, laundry is a really stressful thing. Like, I don't like it when when you grow up and you're older, guess what's going to happen? Like,
Every time the laundry's done?
yeah. So it's not a matter of laundry done. That's not the thing. It's the way that we interpret and respond and react to those things. Now, it's a kind of a weird example, and you're like, okay, but that's not our reality. Okay, let's say...
It's a good example.
Right?
Yeah.
What happens when...
I'll give you one because it happens in
Let's
every
do it.
time we're 10 minutes from the bus showing up. What happens in the house?
Love it.
Right? Anybody with young
Chaos.
kids knows what the last 10 minutes before the bus pickup is like.
I'm trying to think of something that will go into future life type things, right? Like, okay, let's take one similar to that.
Yep.
Which is every time we're trying to leave the house.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Similar. Yep.
Every time we're trying to leave the house becomes really stressful, really tense,
Yep.
a lot of conflict. The kids could cut the tension with a knife. They almost want to like get away and go into their rooms. The programming that's going to run through life is when we need to get out the house to be on something, that's a bad thing.
Yep.
And what's going to happen is as a parent, when they are parents and the spouse doesn't have that thing, and one parent brings that to relationship and the other one doesn't, like, why are we always so late? Like, it's okay, but it's not.
Yeah.
The event is leaving the house.
Yep.
But it's when I say the environment is not experiences. Can be, but environment usually is the way that the whole ecosystem responds to the events.
Yeah.
That's the environment.
Yep.
So if the question becomes, or the answer to the question then becomes, that we are not trying to control the events. That's the difference. We're not trying to keep our kids from, as much as like, it sounds weird, but like experiencing adversity.
Yep.
Right? And we kind of layer that into like different things. Someone laughs at them for bringing shrimp instead of a sandwich to lunch.
Yep.
We're not trying to control that.
Yep.
What we're trying to do is talk to our kids about the appropriate ways to navigate when somebody makes fun of them for bringing shrimp instead of, I'm bringing real world examples
Yeah, I
here.
was gonna say, it's very specific.
That's oddly specific, Ben. So the goal is like not like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I can't believe, and like freak out about it at home too. Like the kid felt bad about it at school.
Yep.
They come home, bring that baggage home. They go, Mommy, like, you're not gonna believe this, but like, I got like, everyone was pointing and laughing at me when I was eating shrimp at the lunch table. And they go, that's terrible. That's so, and like, I'm gonna call the school and I'm gonna talk to the parents and you shouldn't have to deal with, like, now it's like, this is how we deal with
That's
things.
how we deal with it. Yep.
As opposed to maybe a more controlled, maybe a less emotional, maybe more productive conversation, which puts you in control.
Yep.
That's how, what we're doing is we're creating opportunities for us to layer down productive programming. That's the difference. Now, the unfortunate truth is that not everyone grew up in an environment that people were aware of. Like not everyone's parents listened to Chasing Excellence, right? Most of them were products of their own conditioning, which is parents that are just trying to get by. They were working their ass off in the factory. The boss yelled at them. They were having trouble paying the bills. They're coming home exhausted. And then the kids go, Daddy, this is how it is. And they're like, listen, just like, and they lay into them that way. Like, oh, so the cycle repeats. Our jobs as parents is to be generation breakers. We are not our past conditioning. You are not pre-programmed. You will be by default if you let it be by default. But what that's called is being unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
This is the difference between unconscious and conscious. Conscious is I'm aware that I have a choice of how to navigate this situation. When the dryer buzzes, I don't need to freak out, even though that's the way I was brought up. It's people like, all the credit in the world to him because this is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really hard to pop up out of the matrix, have a look around and go, wait a minute, this doesn't need to go this way.
Yep.
I don't need to do it this way. And the people that have the hardest, like substance, physical, and verbal abuse, like this is the perpetual cycle. Like, I grew up this way. This is the way we do things. This is how we deal with situations. So when you get forward, this is how I do things. This is the way we do it. Because this is the human programming I've been set up to run on. The goal for all of us as human beings is to recognize what is the right way, what is the most advantageous way to me to navigate this and any situation. Then, if we're able to do that, can we get our kids to recognize that? The best time to lay this into them is as early as literally like when they come out of the womb. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, from day one, to me, this is the job. Can you set your kids up to be able to deal with stress, challenges, and adversity in as productive a ways? Because that's all life is.
Mm-hmm.
And we know this through hormesis, which is the body's ability to adapt to stress in a positive way. Well, you have this all over the place. Like a hard conversation, the boss says to the employee, like, we got to talk, you're not meeting expectations. If they respond to that the way that their parents responded to them coming home with bad grades, going like freaking out, like they're going to freak out. If you go, wait a minute, or better yet, you talk to your kids in a way that they have an understanding on a fundamental level. It doesn't have to be a fundamental level when they're zero, right? But as they get older, they go, hey, like, this is how we deal with this. It's another way of just lowering bad stress.
Yep.
It's another way of saying it. Like, we've talked about this a lot on the comp train side of things. How much can you handle?
Yep.
Like, if you grew up programmed with a victim mindset, you can't handle much of anything. Everything affects you. You are a slave to your environment. If you have a warrior mindset, not much can get at you because your mind, body, and soul is pure. And no matter what happens outside, can't rattle you inside. That's our jobs as parents. That's what we're trying to do. And the way to do it, to me, is not homeschool them, get them in a bubble where they don't have any adversities and go, see, it's all working out just fine. Yep. That's not what life is going to present. Every living thing on planet Earth has daily adversities. Now, sometimes you might get a day or two when you're in Jamaica sipping, pina coladas, that there isn't much. But I'm going to guess even when you're there, nothing is absolutely perfect. You still might not get the sleep that you might wake up hungover. Yeah. You might, the waiter might take too long to come to the table. You might get served. You might get sunburned. Like it might be low tide when you want it to be high tide. Like, it's not going to be absolutely perfect, no matter how perfect it is, even pina coladas in Jamaica. So the goal is, how well do you navigate the challenges that we're all going to face? And we start with the small ones. We start with, it's low tide, I wish it was high tide. Yeah. We start with, my pina colada's ice already melted. We start with, I'm stuck at a red light that I wanted to go through. We start with, it's raining out, I wish it was sunny. We start with the easy ones. And then if we can work and kind of grab ownership of that, those ones don't rattle me anymore. Then we can kind of like do the reps with the bigger ones, which is like, your kid's being bullied. Someone said something bad about you on social media. Boss says we need to talk. Your spouse loses their job. Like that might be a big one, right? Yep. That's it. We'll save that one. Those other ones you can train with. You can work on those things.
I guess if your spouse loses a lot of jobs often, you could use it as training.
Right. Or maybe it's a job they didn't like or whatever it is. But then there's the big ones, right? Kid gets sick, lose a loved one, you lose a job, you can't pay your bills. What my contention is like, survive those. Don't worry about bringing the warrior mindset to your kid getting cancer.
Yep.
Like, survive it, dude. Like, that's I just want you to get through this. Just get through it. But my take is, if you trained yourself on the little ones to where they're not even a thing anymore, and you're really aware of those middle ones, when the big one hits, it won't hit with the same impact it would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the objective, and that's the goal of this whole pursuit.
It's interesting because there's a parallel to what we've talked about previously and recently, which is that you train in peacetime so that when wartime comes, it's not that you thrive in wartime, it's that you make it through it.
Yes.
And there's a degree to which I think that's the same when we work on our, call it, mental fitness in peacetime, or in times when there are these little things, these little daily things. When the big things come, again, it's not that we thrive.
You're going to get knocked. You're going to get knocked. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Yes. But it might be the difference between being genuinely knocked out and knocked down for a little bit. And that's the difference.
Love that. So it's like, put some like concrete or hypothetical situation. This like really small thing, right? Like, it's your birthday or you had a camping trip planned and it's raining.
Yep.
Right? Okay. You're bummed out, but maybe you're bummed out for a minute or two and you get past it. Okay. Like, but if that bums you out for like hours or days, or even go back to it like a month later, be like, I can't believe it freaking rained.
How unlucky am I?
Yeah. Like, we got some work to do. But if you can honestly like become aware of it, like, oh, like you want to go through that light and the person in front of you stopped and you're like, once you get rid of the you go like, all right, this is reality. Like, okay, like, you don't have to stop the immediacy. Like, your body's going to react. Yep. That's totally cool. That's normal. It's like, fine. Expectations didn't meet reality. Cool. Little bump on the radar. How small can we make that bump on the small things? Then the bigger things, right? Which is like, you came in last place in the workouts. Your kid was bullied at school, whatever it is. That's a bigger thing, right? Boss says, we got to talk. Like, okay, now I'm knocked down. It's a bigger blip, but it's this thing that's going to affect me for a couple hours, maybe a day or two. But like, we're able to move past it. The bigger things, like, it's okay if it takes us days, weeks, or even longer to get past these things. You know, if we have that buffer, because we have worked on our mental fitness so much, it won't put us in the dirt. And that's the idea. You know, you have a miscarriage. It's okay to be bummed out for weeks or months. Yep. That's okay. Yep. Like, I'm not saying warrior mindset.
Or robotic mindset.
Right. Yeah. Like, your kid's diagnosed with some horrific disease. I'm not going warrior mindset there. I'm going to survive. Like, we got to just try to make it through this. But if you've done the work before, I'm pretty confident you're going to be okay during this thing. Yeah. Not good, not thriving, you're going to be okay. Yeah. And you're going to have some really hard days, weeks. It might even be a hard blip of your life, but we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Last thing on this, just to put a pin in it, talking about the stimulus, which I love, which is something else we've talked about, which is like, this is what we do around here. In your home, back to conditioning, back to stimulus and response, that is actually something that we can decide. We can decide what we do around here, how we treat things, how we treat each other, how we respond to things. That is something that is actually within our control. I think that to me, that's the big takeaway from this is like, you don't have to accept when the laundry goes off. Yeah. You don't have to accept that we freak out here, even if that was the only experience you ever had. Yep. These are choices that we make. As hard as they are, there are choices that we can make, and we can make a different choice.
I want to highlight the pronouns that you're using there, which are the really powerful ones, which create a sense of belonging. What you said is like, that's not the way we, and that's how we react here. That's so much more powerful when you're trying to teach people than you. Yep. Like, you don't need to react like that. You don't need to do this. It's like, what you're doing is going like, you over there, and I am over here, or we are over here. Instead, it's, you're a part of it. That's not the way we do things here. We don't act like that. We don't respond to things like that. I love it.
One of the biggest challenges parents face today is screens. That's not a surprise. Phones, iPads, video games, they are everywhere. And if you're not intentional about it, they will quietly become the default activity in your house. In the essay, we wrote about how families are shaped by their systems, those invisible rules and incentives that determine which behaviors get reinforced and which ones get discouraged. If the TV is the centerpiece of the living room and the dumbbells are buried in the basement, your system is incentivizing sitting on the couch. If chips are on the counter and vegetables are hidden in the crisper drawer, your system is incentivizing junk food. Environment matters, and screens are one of the clearest examples of how environments shape behavior. In this next conversation, Ben and I talk about environmental design, how to create a home where healthy choices are easier than unhealthy ones. We talk about screens, about house rules, and about the power of influence, because when your kids go to a friend's house where things operate differently, you need to know how to navigate that. We're going to get to that conversation right after the break. We're brought to you by Monarch. The holidays can be stressful between travels, gifts, and hosting. It's easy to lose sight of your finances. Monarch is rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool bringing your entire financial life together in one clean interface. And right now, just for you, Monarch is offering 50% off your first year. That means going into 2026 with financial clarity. If you're like me, seeing all the travel and gift expenses add up can be a little bit shocking. Monarch is on your side, though. It can help you see what you need to see, stop when you need to stop, and adjust things before all those bills show up. What I love is that it does all the heavy lifting, links all your accounts in just a few minutes, gets clear data visuals, smart categorization, and real control over your money. Michelle and I use it here at the house for recurring money check-ins, just a couple minutes a week to stay on top of everything easily. You can use the code excellence at monarch.com for half off your first year. Do it. Now, my friend, we've got a question from Dora. A bit of a long one, but I'm going to get through the whole thing. She says, we have incredibly kind neighbors who like to hang out with us outside while the kids are playing around us. I really love these people, so I have to emphasize that I don't judge them. I just acknowledge that they have different habits, life, and values. As a result, their teenage children are already obese and their 2-year-old is overweight. A few days ago, they invited us over for the first time. The TV was turned on in the playroom, and they were immediately offering chips to the kids. So the kids were mindlessly eating while the teenagers were also constantly checking their phones. I then understood that this quote unquote mindless eating is the reason they keep gaining weight. While the neighbors' children enjoy playing outside, they can't always keep up with my kids. And in 20 to 30 minutes, I find them sitting on the bench playing on their phones instead. This is something I would really love to avoid later on. How do I raise them so they'll enjoy moving more than screens? I think I'm doing okay on the mindful eating part, but my 4-year-old is already asking when he can get a phone because his older friends love to play games and he also wants to try. He has kindergarten friends who already have phones, although it's fortunately not the norm. I've accepted the fact that he is going to use a phone in the future and see all kinds of things that he will not yet be mature to encounter, but I just don't want him to then forget the values that I've taught him, and I'm quite a bit anxious about this generation's future regarding technology. So I've got some follow-ups, but I'd love your just kind of initial take from Dora's question.
I think there's two main things at the root of, or to address, to chat about. The first is obviously what the question is, how do we navigate the technology, the screens and the phones?
Yep.
And the next is spending time with people that are living vastly different lifestyles and values that we have, especially with our kids who are so easily influenced.
Yep.
So let's take the latter first. Here's in terms of spending time with these people that you really like, you really enjoy spending time with. We're not here to, as she said, to pass judgment, but what we are here to do is to help where help is wanted. And we might not know if help is wanted here in this case. So I don't think it's our place to push this on them, meaning invite them over to your house for an at-home workout, right? Like we might not get to that point. I'm not saying don't do that, but to me, that would be a big leap in the beginning. She mentioned that she went over to their house for the first time. So this is not a long-standing relationship. She's really enjoys spending time with them, but she just went to their house for the first time. I would really encourage her the parents and the kids to come over to your house. The next 3 play dates should be at your house. And I know that when they're at your house, you probably spend most of the time outside. And sounds like until the kids get tired, and it's probably the end of it. But have them at your house and then bring them inside. And what do your kids do when they're inside? And what do they snack on? What do they eat? And just share your lifestyle with them. These people might be befriending you because they see how vibrant and energetic and healthy you seem, and they might be incredibly curious on how you do it. And if we never bring them into our world, they will not have eyes on that and will still be in the dark and have very low levels of awareness of what it could look like otherwise. So I would have the next 3 play dates or otherwise be at your house and spend time inside and have them snack. Then from there, I would have the next play date be at a playground, or even better, go for a hike or something along that end, right? Maybe if it's summertime, you're going to a beach and you're just swimming or doing water sports, but doing something active. So you're showing this is our norm. This is the way we operate. And maybe they get even more curious because then they become aware of the gap in terms of the capacities at which they could operate. And then it becomes like, hey, wow, this is crazy. You guys do us like the levels of curiosity about eat, sleep, train, think, and connect pop up. And now you have those connections. And as we've always talked about, I think the first place to go is, join me 10 o'clock on Saturday for a little workout in the garage, and make it something that they can be successful with. Like, oh my gosh, this is always like, if you're going to if you want to teach your kids how to ski, make sure the first 3 times they go skiing, it's warm, sunny, and not icy. 101 of creating spark and interest. Yeah. Make it something that they enjoy. Okay, so that's like the first part of that conversation, and we can double back on that. The next part is the screens component. And yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard because it's so prevalent. And I think that we really quickly fall into the victim mindset here, most of us. And we go, gosh, it's so, and our kids are on, but when I was a kid, and our generation has to deal with in the 1940s, there was no TV. By the 1970s, every kid was watching Saturday morning cartoons in every household in America. And those parents were probably having the same conversations we were about, I never did this stuff. The best I did was listen to a, after dinner radio show where we sat down together, but no one ever stared at a screen, and no one got absorbed. No one got in this tunnel vision and this absorption where we were all together as a family when we did. This is not unique to us. We are not special in terms of the struggles that we are facing. This is the struggles of a parent. And it's going to be the struggles of the next generation and the next generation, just like it was before us and before us. Before the TV, it was the radio. Before the radio, it was something else. I'm not smart enough to know what that thing was. But it's always going to be this thing where we wish our kids were doing something more proactive, more active, more in line with the visions and values of what we want them to grow up to be, and probably has something to do with academics or athletics. So that's the first place I would start, is go, this is not your unique special struggle. And what I mean by that is like your generation's unique special struggle. This is just something that's always been the case for parents. And then, we have to figure out ways to navigate it. And it's not a hindrance. It's not a burden that we need to overcome as parents. It's just part of raising healthy kids. So that's that high level aspect to this. Now, how do we get into the actual tactics and strategies of how to navigate this thing? That's always the more fun conversation, because it's really tactical and you can put them in place, but also recognize that these are all arbitrary and none of them are right. It's just the way that different people, it's nutrition. The same thing as nutrition. We have to understand the principles, the high level principles of nutrition, but whether you do macros, ketos, zone, paleo, or anything else, those are all just tactics, and they can all work different for different people. So the tactics that I use for my kids is based off of the multifactorial environment of our family life. It is not something that could necessarily be picked up and moved and placed into Patrick's family. And what Patrick does can't be picked up and moved into someone else's family, because you'd have to move everything.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick works at home in his backyard in the man shed, and they're a couple miles from the beach, and his kids are this old and this old. And Patrick was raised this way and his wife was raised this way. And when they were younger, they did this. There's so many different factors. So as we talk about the tactics, they're the sexy, cool, fun things, but it's really not the thing. The thing is the high level principles, and then the understanding of how to apply those. So having said all of that, I think just being really clear is the biggest thing. And that's I came across this thing, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. As parenting, I think one of the best piece of advice I could give to new parents is to follow through on your threats.
Mm.
And that's a weird way of saying, the other way of saying that is keep your promises.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could also flip that and just say promises.
Yes, just keep your promises. Meaning, if the rules in the house, if you promised that kids have a couple hours on Saturday and Sunday mornings, Friday night, so basically it's the weekend, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday morning, they have iPad time. If friends are over after dinner on the weekends and everyone's doing their gaming thing, because that's what kids like to do a lot, especially Northeast in the winter, where they're probably not, going and playing kick the can or manhunt or any of those games that we played as kids, then we'll do that as well. But there is no screen time during the week unless we're on a long car ride. Long car rides are the exception to that. Now, we have a mutual friend, Max. He has a young child, and they've traveled in planes, and she's never seen a screen. She's never been put in front of a screen. That's burly. That's really hard because everyone knows how the screens are pacifiers. So the suggestion is not no screens, not what we're doing, not what Patrick's doing, but the suggestion is very clear rules of engagement.
Yep.
And then follow through on those. Whatever the thing is, like if you don't go and brush your teeth right now, you're not getting the iPad on Saturday morning. Whatever that threat is, that weird thing that parents, say on, if they don't brush their teeth, or if you don't clean your room, then you don't get your iPad on Saturday morning. If the kid doesn't clean his room, that can't fall as an empty threat. You really need to follow through on those things. And it is amazing the difference when you do and you don't follow through on those things. It's just crazy. And you're really doing yourself a favor. In the short term, it's going to be harder because we know how much easier it is to have your kids on the iPad for 2 hours while you go and do your breath work, yoga, and workout Saturday morning. And if they're not doing that, they're coming and bugging you, or they're bickering with each other, or they're making forts in the living room that you need to pick up later on. It's so much easier, but you have to do the hard thing of that Saturday. It's a punch. You are going to end up being punished for it, but in the long run, it pays off so much.
I love that. And also shout out to Manhunt, because that was fun. Manhunt when you were
Absolutely.
younger. Shout out to everybody who did that. The thing I would love to unpack a little bit more, because I think it reflects both on kind of each one of those angles that you just took, is just the power of influence and recognizing the power of influence, not only in our own lives, but obviously with our kids as well, right? So who is influencing who in sort of your first answer, which I loved, which is like, take back the influencer influencee scenario. If you go to somebody's house and they're on their iPad and they're eating chips and they're doing, the environment that we're in dictates what is influencing us, even as adults, and certainly when our kids are involved. And so if this is what we do around here, which is kind of a phrase, this idea that we've talked about a little bit here, what we do around here is incredibly powerful and influential. And so recognizing that if we find ourselves in a position where, like, I don't like the rules here, it's because whatever the rules are here is influencing the behavior and the feelings and the vibe. And if we want to change that, or we don't like that, we need to put ourselves in a position where either those things are better, or we are the one influencing, which is why I love your advice is bring them over to your house, because then the power dynamic flips. It then becomes they're entering into your environment. They're entering into your definition of what we do around here. And I guess at least in Dora's case, she clearly has a preference for one versus the other. And so I like that. And I think that's really powerful to remember that we are always being influenced, and we always have the ability to influence either the environment or the people we're in. Come on over. We're going to do a workout. That could be incredibly powerful. Maybe this individual, this neighbor, has never had anybody who's influenced them in that direction. Maybe they grew up a certain way, to your point about all the context that goes around. Maybe their family does this. Maybe her parents taught her this, and she hasn't ever had a friend say, come on over, we're going to do this, and we're going to do a workout, and then we're going to hang out and chat for 30 minutes, whatever it might be. And so recognizing that we have the power to influence as much as we can fall victim to other people influencing us is really, really powerful.
Yeah, it's so well said. When we put together that 100 words of health, It started with create an environment in which it makes it easy to eat, sleep, train, think, connect well. It's totally the environment. And yes, when you're in somebody else's environment, I don't think you're exaggerating it when you say you're giving up the power. And because that's really what that is. It goes back to the question we were talking about earlier in terms of when you're in a bureaucratic organization, you're giving up the power in terms of creating the rules of the organization. It's not yours. When you're an entrepreneur, you have the power to create this thing in the light of your vision. And I think it's a really great call out that if you are struggling with your kids in other environments, keep them in control, like keep them in your environment. There may be extenuating circumstances where it's not as easy. Maybe they live next door to the school and you live 15 miles from school. So it'd be really weird if after school, if the kids came over to your house, only for the parents to have to, it would be, it's things like that happen that become really obvious when you have the kids in elementary school for as long as we have. But as much as possible, I would really try to pull them into your environment. And to your point, where you started this is like, don't underestimate the power of influence, not only with environment. You've talked about this a lot, but the power of a person, of a singular person. And I really like and appreciate when you talk about this, the power of a singular person to change the trajectory of your life. And yes, this person may have never had a person in their lives that had health as a awareness point at all. Because I think that's more common than, for sure, the people that listen to our podcast probably realize is the norm is not to be one of us. We are not the norm. The normal people do not spend hours a day thinking about how to optimize their vitality, life force, energy, and fulfillment. That's why it's so cool that we found this community that we can share this conversation with, because that is who we are. But this is one of the things that when during COVID, we had a couple neighbors that we didn't know at all. And when we met them during COVID, we created a little bubble with these two other families, and they became some of our very, very, very best friends. When we met them, they did not do CrossFit. They did not eat the way that we do. They started coming over to our house. Our house was the meeting point. And now they are as dedicated members of our gym as anyone else that we've had. And, it's a big part of their lives now. And I think it's really for the simple fact that our house was the meeting point. I think if somebody else's house was the meeting point, it would have been very different. We're shaped by our environment.
Last question I've got, maybe a little bit closer to the tactic side of things, which is, your kids are a bit older than mine, so I haven't really needed to get to this point yet, but do you have conversations with your kids, Bodie and Harley specifically, about screens, about why the rules are the way they are? Or is it just like, no, we don't do them in the week, but you do them on Friday and Saturday, Sunday, and we kind of leave it at that? And the sort of the analogy or the comparison is how you talk about nutrition in the house as well? Like, are they comparable enough that it's worth talking about, or are they so different that they're not?
Heather hates the screens. So this conversation is always prevalent. She thinks of screens the way I think of sugar and processed foods. Like, I think sugar and processed foods have the potential to kill you. And she thinks the same thing about screens. She's like, you are wasting your life. She's not shy about the values that we placed on what they're doing. And anyone that has spent time researching this or even watched lightly The Social Dilemma or anything close to that, I think recognizes her perspective and how it's maybe not as extreme as it sounds, how dangerous screens can be. But yes, we do have those conversations. Our kids are very aware of it. It doesn't mean that they don't want it. It's the same thing with sugar. Like, if we have all the conversation we want about sugar, when Halloween comes, they're still eating the sugar. Like, when they go to a birthday, they still want the cake. It's a incredibly alluring, fun, pleasurable thing that taps into our hormonal system to where it overrides a lot of the willpower that you might have. So we do talk a lot about it. And this is one of the things I think is why our approach of this, we're not saying no, we're just saying in these buckets works fairly well, because they can do it just like they can have some sugar, but we're putting it in context and in constraints. It's not just, no, you can't do that, without any context in terms of why not. We talk about the why not. And then it's not, you can't never do this. It's in a certain constraint of when it can, as EC would say, it's dose dependent.
We're going to close out with a conversation that gets at something a little bit deeper, what it actually feels like to try to stay healthy while raising kids, how your priorities shift, how your training changes, how you redefine what excellence even means. Because the truth is, parenting is humbling. You used to measure progress in PRs or body comp. Now you get to measure it in whether everyone made it out the door with shoes on. It's a victory. But here's the thing. This isn't a step backwards. It's a step forward towards something much, much more profound. Training for a PR affects only you. Modeling health for your kids affects not only them, but generations after them. The last conversation is about integrating all of it, the framework, the tactics, the daily reality of being a parent who cares about health. It's about accepting that the work is messier and more imperfect than anything you did before kids, and that it's also much, much more meaningful. We've got one more break, and then we're going to get to that conversation. We're brought to you this time around by Surfshark, a VPN that helps you take control of your online privacy and security. Go to surfshark.com/excellence. Use the code excellence at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. If you're listening to this show, we know you're going deep. You're reading the articles, watching the videos, listening to the interviews. You're putting yourself out there in search of learning and growth. But every time you're online, your data is exposed, whether you're on public Wi-Fi at the gym, traveling to a competition, or just browsing at home. Surfshark encrypts your internet activity and keeps your online presence private so you can focus on what matters without worrying about who's tracking you. We've been using this on all our devices here at the house. Yes, you can use one subscription across unlimited devices, and it's seamless, whether I'm accessing content while traveling or just want peace of mind that my information stays mine. It works. Plus, Surfshark comes with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no downside to trying it. Secure your privacy with Surfshark by going to surfshark.com/excellence or use the code excellence at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark. We're going to answer a listener question today. I'm excited about this. From Janik. He's a member of our Chase Club. Shout out to Janik. He says, I'm a 33-year-old man and a father with one 1.5-year-old boy. I'm very active and try to live by the 5 factors of health as much as possible. Parenting has really been challenging for me as it takes up a lot of my time, which means I often have to sacrifice my training at the gym together with other activities I used to enjoy, not to mention the impact it's having on my sleep. I'm at the point where I'm doubting having more children because of these challenges. The thought of starting over with an infant is very hard for me. How did you handle everyday life with small children? Did you cut back on training or other activities you used to enjoy? Or is it a matter of accepting the new way of living and knowing this will not last forever and times will change?
All right, Janik, shout out. Yeah, Janik's very active. I see him post a lot. And okay, so first off, congrats on having a 1.5-year-old and being
You
a
made
father.
life. You created life.
I have made life. It's like Tom Hanks, and I have made fire.
Is that what? Is that the one we Castaway?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's no big different from the 90s, everybody. Maybe the 2000s.
Is that from the 90s?
I don't know. Maybe the
Oh my
2000s.
God, you're probably right. That's wild. But yeah, Janik. Okay, so first off, maybe before we answer the specifics of the question, this idea that, you know, when you have one child and it's like you're doubting having another. My experience was similar, but it wasn't stemmed from it didn't stem from this change in stress or lack of sleep, or mine was like, this is really what I was like, I have never felt this level of unconditional love, right? Which is like this love for this thing, no matter what this little baby does, like I've never felt this. And my self-doubt about having number two was like, I can't imagine. It would be unfair for me not to love the second child that much. And I don't know how that's possible. It's just like, I don't know how I can do that because it's all here. And what, you know, just to kind of maybe explore that issue with people is that obviously love is not like pouring from a watering can. It's infinite, right? And there's no fixed amount that you have to divide up in any which way. So this is my way of saying to Janik that different struggles, but man, I'm really glad that had a second child. So I know you're going through some changes and maybe some challenges and maybe some crap, pun intended. But the first kind of realization is that life, business, whatever, it happens in seasons, right? And there's seasons. There's times for growth. There's times for work. There's times for buckling down and enduring. There's times for harvest. There's times for rest. There's life. It's not a linear path. It's going to come in these different waves. And the one you're in right now is not the one you were in before. You're in a different season. So just kind of recognizing that and realizing that this doesn't last forever. So part of this is just knowing, you know, I think of this in terms of like business, or even family. I think of it, you know, that idea that the call is coming. Like the call in the middle of the night that something has happened, and the proverbial call, right? It's like in air quotes. It doesn't have to be a call. But you're going to have to go and do this. You don't want it to happen, but there's going to be a time for all of us that's necessary for us to heed the call and rise to the challenge. And whether that is your kid is sick and you need to, in the middle of the night, take them to the hospital, whether that's the fire alarm going off in your house and you have to get your kids out and you're not going to sleep very well. These are all very, very short things, right? That are going to affect you for one night. But how you respond to that is big, and it's coming. And it's going to happen to all of us. All of us are going to experience that in different forms or fashion. Sometimes it doesn't happen in one night. And, you know, the work thing is a great example where there might be 2 or 3 week stretches where you're crazy overwhelmed, where you're anxious, where you're stressed out, where you dread work and the work environment and the workload and what you're doing. And you want to do anything other than what you're doing. Those things pass. One is you experience for a day or a night. The other experience for weeks. Sometimes it's longer than that. It's truly a full season. We had a down spell in our business. Something like COVID happens. Or where Janik is, you know, you're now 18 months into this. And it's a long one. But again, this realization that it's seasonal and it's not going to last forever, you're going to come out on the other side. Mm-hmm. And when you stop fighting that, when you kind of surrender to the seasonality as a realist mindset of like, hey, this is part of it, you stop feeling like you're losing is really what happens. And instead you can start winning, and you can win in different ways. The way you were winning before was you were winning at training. Now the energy, this kind of goes the opposite way I was just talking about with the watering can. Now, instead of pouring as much as you did into training, some of that is now a requirement that you have to pour into your child, and probably even more so into your relationship and your home life. But that's still winning. And if we reframe that, understanding that this season requires this, it's very different than, well, now I can't do this, so I'm losing. That's not the case. It is you as a holistic person. Part of that is your training, but it is far from the totality. So step one is kind of this realization, as Oprah Winfrey says, like, you can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. Like, you can be really fit and train a lot. You can have a great family life and a child. You can have a second one. But we're not going to be able to get everything at all times. The other was saying that and I'm realizing maybe I stole that from Oprah, but the other is like, I've always said, like, in life, in business, you can get what you want, but you can't get it without the bumps in the road. It's going to be hard. It's going to be probably painful, but you can get what you want, but you can't get it without the bumps in the road, and you can't get it on your timeline. So what most people do is they experience a bunch of bumps and they give up. Or they say, hey, I want this, but I only want to go through this child rearing time. And I wish this was just like a 6-month period. Like, it's not up to, you don't choose the timeline. You don't choose how big or small the bumps are. So that really gets to kind of like my second point, which is the idea is, in terms of training, is dial it down. Don't drop out. That's that's what it ends up becoming. It's not about what you were doing before and measuring yourself against that. It's what can you keep doing? And what you keep doing is, instead of 2-hour trainings, maybe it's 20-minute trainings. Maybe instead of hour trainings, it becomes 5-minute trainings. And while you used to be able to dedicate a lot of time and a lot of energy to this because you now have these sleepless nights, it's just realizing, doing what you can with where you are, with what you got. Which what you got is 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And if that is the case, I really recommend 2 things. The first is, what is the most efficient way to use that? What can you get the most bang for your fitness buck, for your time component? Which is, I'll just kind of lay out an example. Something that doesn't take any warm-up, because a warm-up is a primer to get you to the really meaningful thing. So what can you do without a lot of warm-up? And what can you do that's going to kind of give you this big total body boost and power? And the way I think of this is, pick your favorite movements. I like push-up, pull-up, sit-up, squat, right? Because you have upper body push, upper body pull, trunk flexion, and a total lower body thing with the squat. If you want to sub out lunges for squat, no big deal. If you want to do leg lifts for sit-ups, got it. If you want double a bench for push-up, get it, right? So don't worry about the specifics, but choose your 3, 4, 5 favorite movements and do 5 to 20 reps for 5 to 20 rounds, right? So the low side of that might be, I'm going to do 5 reps each of those for 5 rounds, right? And cool, like you're going to be able to do that in a couple minutes. But maybe it's the bigger one, which is we're going to do 20 reps of those for 5 rounds, 100 reps of all those. And the idea behind this is, like, it's not you work up to 20 and 20. That's not the goal, but you work towards one end of them. If you were to try to get towards those hundreds, right, which would be 5 rounds of 20 each, or that's 100, or you go 20 rounds of 5 each.
Yep.
That's 100. And that's enough variance. If you just kind of think about doing those movements, you're going to, if you were to add in a run, maybe a 1 minute run after every round, man, I'm telling you, Janik, like you're going to feel okay.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing is don't do things that take a lot of warm up time. Things like squats and jerks and snatches and even like something like box jumps might take a lot. Instead, just what can you get in and do them, and then get your that kind of like threefold, like muscular, cardio, that neuroendocrine, like higher intensity thing done really quickly. So that'd be the first one. You got to dial it back. So not big training sessions. What do you not need a lot of warm up for? And if you want to use dumbbells and stuff, just really light, I love that as well. And the second part is thinking about like exercise snacks. So that might mean just while your kid is crawling around on the floor, you're banging out a set of 30 push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And those little things, while they don't feel like training sessions, they're kind of powerful. I mean, like you working on banging out a set of push-ups close to failure, just kind of, if you were able to do that once or twice a day with a couple of different movements, put a pull-up bar in your kitchen between the doorway to the kitchen and the living room, and just bang out a set close to failure, the muscle growth, hypertrophy, and also what happens with like glucose regulation just from these little snacks is really powerful. So if you were to do that thing, you only need 5 minutes of intense, really, I'm going to train, 5 reps done for a bunch of different rounds, or 20 reps done for a few rounds, and then little bite-sized snacks throughout the day. Keep a kettlebell in your living room, pound out a set, again, a big set, something like 30, 40, 50 kettlebell swings, which again will only take you like 1 to 2 minutes. But what that does is a lot. And you have to kind of like stop measuring yourself against your past self, right? It's not about you versus where you were. It's about you trying to continue to do the right things. That's it. Like dial it back. Don't drop out. Don't compare yourself to who you once were.
Yeah. I like that. Dial it down. Don't drop out. I like that a lot. One thing I was thinking about as you were going through that, and to shift gears just a little, I was thinking about the conversation we had with Chris Irwin about fear. And I think I was thinking about that because I was exactly in the same boat that Janik was in. After our first was born, I didn't even want to consider the conversation about having a second. And a large part of that was because my oldest wasn't a great sleeper. And so it was months and months and years of, am I ever going to get enough sleep again?
Yeah.
And so it was a hard conversation, but like you, for other reasons, but like you, I'm more than happy that I was talked into it. But I was thinking about the conversation with Chris, and I was thinking about myself in that position, in that boat, in the very similar, if not exactly the same context as Janik. And I guess I would just ask him, what are you afraid of? Because it seems like you're resisting something. You're afraid of something. You're afraid of something not happening, or you're afraid of something happening if we were to have another kid. Because Janik knows, and you said this right at the top, like, how could I love anything? Add another one, and you will realize that you have an infinite wellspring of love in you. And you know that already having one kid. And so it's not a question of like, I don't know if I want another kid, because you will. Because that's what they do. They bring that much joy to our lives. And so the question then would be like, well, what am I afraid of? And I love everything you just laid out, because I think when I think back to myself, it's, well, I'm never going to get back to the gym consistently. Well, I'm never going to get enough sleep. Well, I'm never going to fill in the blank. And when you can actually articulate this, and again, I wasn't able to, I was sort of just in a 18-month confused state of fog, because I couldn't articulate this, because I didn't recognize, oh, what's happening is I'm afraid of something. What am I afraid of? If you can articulate what you are afraid of, you can start to build countermeasures and strategies against that. A perfect strategy is what you just laid out, Ben, with that sort of that training paradigm shift for Janik. Whether it's movement snacks, whether it's here, pick your 5 favorite, whatever it is, that's a strategy against the fear of I'm never going to work out again, or I'm not going to work out as consistently as I used to. I'm never going to have muscle ups again, whatever the heck it might be. When we give ourselves a strategy that stands in the face of, or that recognizes the fear that we have, we begin to see past the fear, and we begin to see how it's possible that we can do the thing. And yeah, we're talking about a kid now, but this could be any number of things. Once we're able to identify what am I scared of, I can put something in place to say, okay, if I do that, it's not so scary. And then suddenly the thing that is so scary isn't as scary.
I'm going to take a stab at what he's scared of.
Mm-hmm.
Because for most people, this is the scariest thing. And it's the loss of identity.
Mm.
Janik was a hard charger. Janik was somebody that prioritized sleep, training. He ate really well. He had lots of energy. Fittest guy amongst his friends.
Yep. Had a bunch of activities he used to enjoy. That's what he says.
That's right.
Yep.
And now he's not that, because it seems like the challenge is like time and tiredness, but it's not. It's actually, the challenge is a changing of identity.
Yep.
We don't want to let an old version of ourselves dictate whether we are winning or losing.
Mm.
Because we need to be, that it's kind of weird dichotomy of like, I'm the type of person that, fill in the blank, is the most powerful statement we can make, because as humans, we have this massive desire for self-confirmation, to prove to ourselves that we are that type of person. If you truly believe I am the type of person that's what your actions are just going to follow. And that works both positively and negatively.
Yep.
I am the type of person that doesn't smoke cigarettes. Guess what happens when you're around people that smoke cigarettes? You're like, no way, man. No, thank you. It's only because of that. It's your identity. I'm the type of person that people laugh at parties. Guess what? You're going to be lighthearted and make jokes. I'm the type of person that gets up at 5:30 a.m. and goes to the gym for 2 hours. Guess what you do? I'm the type of person that can never get ahead in work and job. Like, that's identity is a really powerful thing. But if we're not flexible enough, it can really act as a self-limiter. Mm-hmm. Because what you say is, just like we talked about the different seasons, your identity, you shouldn't be the same person you were at 35 as you were at 15. We want to grow. We want to be able to contribute to the world in more meaningful and powerful ways. You being a very fit, capable human being is awesome. You being a pretty fit and pretty capable and amazing dad is way more awesome.
Yep.
Like, way more awesome. So we don't want to let your previous identity, the way you are measuring up against that, determine whether you're winning or losing on the scorecard, because the scorecard has changed. You are now responsible for other things other than your own fitness. And the truth is, there is nothing more meaningful, impactful, and important in the world than fatherhood. Mm-hmm. This is for males, right? I would say motherhood if you're a female. It's the most important thing. So if that means training takes a back step, ... for a little while, that's more than okay. That's good. Now, the second part of this is, one of the big important things of being a good father is modeling good behavior.
Yep.
Good behavior in this sense is doing the hard but necessary things to stay fit. You have a 1.5-year-old. They're not going to absorb things right now, but you're trying to keep the habits of don't drop out, do what you can with what you got, so that when they are 2.5, 3, and 4, they see you as that capable dad. They see you as the person that trains and exercises and eats well. They see you as the type of person. They're not going to do what you say, but they will never fail to model what you do.
Yep.
I can't hear what you're saying because your actions speak so loudly. So what we don't want to do is allow this previous self, this previous scorecard to determine whether we're doing the right things or not. We want to be flexible, malleable enough to adapt to the new, more meaningful. This is what you've been training for. More meaningful, more responsibility. Do your very best with what you can, with what you got, in terms of the training, in terms of the presence, in terms of the patience, in terms of the humility, in terms of the compassion, in terms of the love that you can bring to your family. Squeeze in the training where you can, because eventually it's going to be the thing that you're going to want to model as well. And if you drop off, completely off, it's much harder to get back on that bandwagon. Just keep it going, doing the hard but necessary work along the way. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't want to say, it's just kind of lowering the expectations. Again, we talk about that a lot. Lowering the expectations of yourself in terms of the training spot, but without kind of like falling. It sounds, I'm not saying you can it's okay to lower the bar, is I guess what I'm saying. Give yourself permission to lower the bar of, I don't need 2 hours. I don't need to be able to back squat 445. I don't need to be able to run a 5:30 mile. I just need to be able to stay really fit and capable so that I can model that.
Thank you so very much for hanging through on this one. I know it was long. I hope it was helpful. If you want to go deeper on these ideas, I really do encourage you read the full essay, chasingexcellence.email. It's also in the show description. It's called Your Ceiling Becomes Their Starting Point, and it really does synthesize a lot of what we've been talking about for years all into one place. If you found value in this episode or in the essay, one of the best ways you can support us doing more long-form work like this is joining the Chase Club. It's our premium membership. You get ad-free episodes, bonus content, the Chase Tracker app, all of it, while directly supporting us being able to create stuff like this episode and the essay that went along with it. Check it all out, chasingexcellence.email. We would love to have you. Ben and I will be back next week for a new episode of Chasing Excellence. Thank you so very much for tuning into the show this week. 2 quick things before we go. The first, if you want even more from this episode, I do recommend you check out the full listener guide where we break down all the big ideas. We ask reflection questions. We give you steps to put these ideas into action. The link is in the show notes. And the second thing, while you're there, check out the Chase Club. It's our premium membership where we include bonus content, ad-free episodes, and the brand new Chase Tracker app. Check it all out at chasingexcellence.email.
Eating healthy doesn't mean you have to eat out at a pricey restaurant. Healthy Choice Simply Steamer's grilled chicken and broccoli Alfredo is an easy, high-protein meal with nothing artificial. The steam tray keeps the sauce separate, so you get crisp broccoli, creamy Alfredo sauce, and tender grilled chicken that's delicious every time. And it's a satisfying meal with 28 grams of protein. You can find it in the frozen aisle. Healthy Choice. What having it all tastes like.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment specialist, who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.